Games to be sold, not told. So we finna keep everybody broke. They say time is money. They say money talk. I ain't got no time to waste if you ain't got no time. Out and about, out chasing paper. The streets of my house and the house always wins like Vegas. Never down for the count. Second win, second nature. Bound mine, never had my hands out. Fuck favors. By design, everything tailored. In my youth, it was shell toes, no Chuck Taylors. We choke game, had a game so it's still the same code game, so it's still the same code. We all pay the cost, pay dues. Move with the mind state that I can't lose. On the grind, push a hard line with my linemen. Back when I was young, they said it's all about timing. Till it's my time, all the stars are aligning. I'm a diamond in the rough, couple cuts got me shining. This game you cannot cop on consignment. In the field, all we do is execute assignments. The game's to be sold, not told. So we finna keep everybody broke. They say time is money, they say money talk. I ain't got no time to waste if you ain't got no time to talk. The game's to be sold, not told. So we finna keep everybody broke. They say time is money, they say money talk. I ain't got no time to waste if you ain't got no time to talk.
First, we get into this paper. See, I want it all, plus some UNDERDOG acres, a lot of alcohol, few dad bags of paper. Run this shit like a ship and I'm the sailor. Cold, kinda like it's fresh up out the freezer. Cold, if she ain't talking bread, I don't need her. Soon as I meet her, I'm a fucker, then I leave her. It's the old Mac needs, treat them all like bottom feeders. Break it down slow for them folks that don't know. I'm a seasoned vet, black belt out the dojo. With a wide range of weapons, so I'm out the holster. Keeping all options open, so many ways that I can fold ya. Told you from the gate, never been about no play. Get it on the go, they never been known for no delay. The game should be sold, not to be told. Keep your mouth shut, don't have to break the mold. Mac needs.
Break the work down, it's fence the move. Push that work out, I distribute. Break the work down, it's fence the move. Push that work out, I just distribute. A young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the foreign or I'm hopping out the Uber. Crew clocking chips opposite of you losers. Can't be broke as a joker, got no sense of humor. Just a young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the foreign or I'm hopping out the Uber. Crew clocking chips opposite of you losers. Can't be broke as a joker, got no sense of humor.
I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. You know I'm a boy, get money's what I'm used to.
Keep it straight from the gate, so I don't confuse ya. I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. I'ma make noise, shout to my producer. I'm an entertainer, but I ain't here to amuse ya. Yeah, I fuck with shooters and they all fucking users. Come through, wake that ass up like a rooster, hella early in the morning. Early bird gets a worm. Finna get rich for 'em, food for the worms. Cutting cocaine, dropping whole things. It's a cold game, make you run your gold chain. Hungry, but I'm moving in a keto state. For sure, I beat the price on the keys in your state. Catch me running up a tire, fucking up a bag. Make me wonder how long will a good thing last. On my Curtis Mayfield, live a life I can't chill. Push a man, pushing packs, all I do is make squeal. Keep it 100, I'm just numb, yo, I can't feel none of these suckers when they say they real. Stacking Uber cash, I'm an out-of-state supply. Random Uber man, here to get away drive. Just a young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the foreign or I'm hopping out the Uber. Crew clocking chips opposite of you losers. Can't be broke as a joker, got no sense of humor. Just a young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the...
Welcome to the Dynasty Show. Tuesday nights here. Hammer already starting his shit with the Jordan Love fucking jersey.
Bing
But
bong. You
what is
know,
up?
it's validation for not only myself but all of Packer Nation that we sat through an interesting year of just doubts and is Jordan Love any good? And all he does is go out there and tosses 4,000 yards, 30 plus touchdowns. And who knew the Packers are in the playoffs? That's I know Christmas was 2 weeks ago, but it feels like it's here again. It's fantastic. As I said on the previous show, go Pack go. Let's go, baby. Let's fucking go.
Are you done?
Oh, there's more to come. Don't you worry. We'll get to the we'll take a deeper dive on that. But
Oh
what's
God, what's
happening, bro?
good? What's good, everybody? Devo in the house. What up, Devo? Daniel Barry, as usual. What is goody?
Yes, sir.
Us in the building, guys. Go support on Facebook. Kev, what up, Kev? Before you address any dynasty
Yeah.
stuff, did you see
Uh-oh.
Cat Williams on the Shay Shay show? Yes, of course. I don't think anybody could possibly miss that.
So, did you watch the entire YouTube video? Because I did.
No, I actually didn't watch the whole entire thing. I did not get a
So,
chance to actually sit there and watch the whole entire thing.
well, to be fair, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And when I saw it, I obviously everybody saw the clips and everything online, and I was like, you know what? Let me give this a full watch from start to finish. So if you haven't seen the video, for those of you out there, it has like 35 million views in like a week, which is absolutely bananas. But the first 30 minutes is well worth the watch. I it was interesting. Not only obviously everybody looks at how he attacked people, like not even attacked people, how he exposed people, because to me that's what the basis of the interview was to expose people. And he said that I'm here to expose all lies 2024. And but the thing that I found very interesting about Cat Williams was he's extremely articulate. Like he measures his words have a purpose. He's not fucking around. Like he takes it a layer deep. Like you have to peel all the onions back to kind of understand. And I actually went in and watched it a second time, not the full video, but I actually watched it a second time because he's, like I said, there was things I didn't even know about Cat Williams, like in terms of, him being homeless and his whole different situation, how he moved around as a child, blah, blah, blah. But it was very insightful. He took a nuclear bomb and just nuked all these comedians out there. So yeah, it was a really good watch. Honestly, if you have the time, definitely give it a full watch, and you can see how articulate Cat Williams is. He's not fucking around.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he is very smart, and I mean, a lot of the stuff he said, like we've basically heard whispers of before, but it's just almost like for a lot of people, at least, like confirming all of those, all of
Yep.
those things. So it is kind of crazy.
He tore down, and there's some comments in the comment section. Kevin Hart, obviously, he went after Steve Harvey. He nuked Cedric the Entertainer. He talked about Faison Love, Ricky Smiley. Like he went up in Ludacris. He went up and in on like P Diddy, of course. Tiffany Haddish. Like he just man, he really went in,
Yeah.
and it's good. It's good for the business. It's good for YouTube. It's good for Shanish. Like it's just good, like for everybody that he does this because everybody's getting the attention. Everybody's getting the pub. Everybody's making money off of it because of the YouTube and the social media aspect of it. So good for them.
I think the one crazy thing about it is like nobody like there's not like a lot of denying. They're just like saying a bunch of shit, but it's like there's
That's
no like
true.
actually denying it. Like
That's true.
that's always just something to think about. But
That's super true because nobody and I seen a lot of the posts that Kevin Hart has made and Ludacris and people who have responded, and they're saying like when people are responding, they're responding with just like nonsense. Like they're
and
not denying anything.
you know what makes it more truthful is Ice Cube has said some shit like this in the past before as well, like something similar. And then I don't know if anybody else saw, there was another like Instagram thing that went out with Bernie Mac, and like the producers trying to make the two kids sit on his lap, and he was like,
Yep,
"Nah,
I did
nah."
see that. And there's receipts on the internet with all this stuff, like the Kings of Comedy stuff, like how Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer were stealing Cat Williams jokes. Like there's receipts on a lot of this stuff, and it's starting to surface on the internet. So it's an interesting time to be a comedian now.
All right, let's get back into it. Nick, what up, Nick? Overweight at running backs behind CMC, Swift, Connor, Pollard, Warren. And the pivot seems to be to a veteran wide receiver. Any old wide receivers to target with RB2s like this that might produce for a couple years. Well, I mean, today's show is going to be about some veteran guys that you can buy. So, we are going to get into that. So I won't spill the beans just yet. But for RB2s, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody really just for the RB2, like if you might have to add something on top of it, like a second or some kind of package. But if you're talking about just purely one of those guys, like a Swift, Connor, Pollard, Warren, I mean, right now you're probably not getting anything at the moment. For the most part, at least people should not be. But why is my thing bugging out?
Yeah, light situation.
Bro, this thing. I don't know if it's like if it's too dark, then it's just trying to make it light up or whatever, but it's just bugging me out.
I mean, you're already pale as it is, so that extra light doesn't.
No.
I think it's good now.
But yeah, for the most part, you shouldn't be buying running backs at the moment. We don't know what is happening like with anybody. I mean, you can say, okay, Warren is probably pretty safe where he's going to have at least a role. Pollard, we don't know what's happening. Connor will be coming back, but he's one of those older guys. Swift, I mean, who knows? But yeah, we are going to get into some guys that maybe you should be buying for contenders. So we'll get into that a little bit later, Nick. So hang around. We'll give you some more, some actual guys there. Yeah, Devo, it's like, here we go with Hammer shit.
Hey, listen, I've been taking a lot of flack for the Packers this season and the ups and downs and the roller coasters. So you goddamn right, I'm gonna hang on the rim.
Marty, what up, Marty?
Marty, what to do?
Peacock,
See, we got
in
a
the
lot of
building.
people. A lot of people
Another
hitting up
team,
the Twitch.
Another team that we didn't really expect, the Texans.
Yeah. I mean, we knew they were going to be pretty good after the first like month and change.
Well, after that, yeah, but from the like beginning of the season.
Yeah,
you
of
know
course.
what I mean?
Yeah. The Rams were a nice little
Yeah, the
solid
Rams
bounce
too.
back team. So the Browns, kind of kept that train rolling. They actually look better than they did with Deshaun Watson, which is interesting to see how they're going to roll into the playoffs. So I'm really excited for the playoffs. It's obviously with the Packers being in it, I have a rooting interest, but just overall, there's some really good matchups. Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City. Mike McCarthy facing off against his old team in the playoffs. Matthew Stafford taking on his old team in the playoffs. That Jared Goff, trade is they're going to be facing off against each other. So some really interesting playoff matchups.
Madden's Pass, what's up, brother? What are we doing with Pitts and London? Well, we got Arthur Smith is gone, right?
There it is.
Right? They're most likely getting a quarterback.
There it
hopefully,
is.
Whether it's a veteran or whether I don't know who they're going to draft. I think kind of after that championship game, I don't know if Penix is going to be, first round pick now at this point, or at least maybe not top 10. I don't know. So that's going to be interesting to see. So do they wind up going for a veteran or somebody else that's out there? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But you could say these are buying opportunities for at least Pitts for sure. London, I mean, his as soon as like a quarterback gets in there, his value is just going to absolutely skyrocket.
Especially if it's a veteran quarterback like a Russell Wilson, then
yes. And I think him more than Pitts, just because most people just are off of Pitts right now. And for the most part, like that whole tight end landscape has changed, right? There's a bunch of actually good tight ends now. So
yes,
Pitts is kind of just getting lowered and lowered, and like it might be a good buying opportunity where you can get him for kind of cheap, or at least in startup drafts, to take advantage.
Yeah, what was really interesting about that point you just made is that like it feels like there's a new age of tight ends coming in, especially with this year's rookie crop and some of the older guys like the Kelseys and the Kittles and those guys getting a little bit older. So the Mark Andrews, I know Mark Andrews not that old, but he seems to be getting banged up a little more, as of late. So yeah, that tight end, the tight end position is going to be really interesting. Obviously, Sam Laporta, my guy, is just fantastic. And really quick on the Sam Laporta part. So I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Dan Campbell, right, went full steam ahead, played all of his guys to win that game, which I respect, and that's just who he is. I have no real issue about it, but there's not a lot of blowback from Dan Campbell because it looks like Sam Laporta is going to be out. And he's a big part of what they do. And that Lions Rams game is kind of a toss up. I don't really know which way to lean here. And Sam Laporta not being there because he played in week 18 when they already had a playoff spot and a home playoff game locked up. I haven't really heard much about Dan Campbell, kind of rolling those dice.
I think Amon Ra's about to go off, but I think for the most part for this Pitts London, I'm gonna be probably trying to buy Pitts in the off season if possible, if you can get them for relatively cheap, or especially in startups where you can get them late. And then London, I think you just got to hold them for now if you have them. And once that quarterback comes, whoever it is, I mean, at that point, once the value goes up, you can look to move off, or you just kind of hold on to them. But we need something.
I was never really a big Pitts guy. Like I know he profiles well, and maybe he's just a product of the situation he found himself in Atlanta. But I was never a huge Pitts guy. Like I know he's super talented, but it's just like so many guys have like overtaken him. And maybe to your point, the value is there now, where he's not a huge. You don't have to give up, a ton of capital to go out and get him. So maybe from your standpoint, looking at it through the other lens, the value is there now where you can get him. And if he turns out to be really good because they get Russell Wilson or they move up in the draft, they currently pick 8 yet again. If they decide to move up and get that quarterback because they have all those other pieces in place, then hey, his stock might change. So
He's still only 23. Obviously, the situation wasn't ideal. I mean, some of these other guys that are producing, I mean, those situations are just way better, right? It's not like, you can't drop Kyle Pitts on the Lions and he wouldn't be doing what Laporta is doing. You know what I mean? So
that's
it's a
fair.
very kind of a rough situation, but I'm willing to hold. The reason why I'm willing to hold out, and I have a bunch of Kyle Pitts in a bunch of my leagues, is just because like I'm okay with him just giving me the mediocre production, like for now, because I have the upside at least. Because if I'm not playing Kyle Pitts, I mean, who else am I playing? I mean, they're still giving me relatively the same numbers, so like I'm
yeah.
still okay.
We always talk about the drop off once you pass the Kelseys and the Mark Andrews and the Hawkinsons. Sam Laporta is firmly in that conversation heading into next year. I believe so. Once you get past those top 3 or 4 guys, the drop off is so significant. To your point, if you reach for the upside, then could be a good payoff on the back end.
I mean, he's literally like a wide receiver almost at the tight end position. They just need to somehow find a coach and scheme him up. I mean, stop throwing the ball to damn Pruitt and fucking Manu.
I hear it.
Bogey. What up, Bogey?
Bogue.
You Soul Korean. Is that
Korean.
Song? I think that's Song. What up, Song?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of those Twitch people now. It's cool.
Crispy in the building. What up, Crispy? Cousins. Yeah, they said Cousins might be okay with taking a kind of team friendly deal, so that will be exciting. Kind of what we've kind of been thinking. Like, all right, they might get him for relatively cheap because of the injury, and
It's
he
the
could
best
be
situation
back,
for both parties.
like, I said this morning. I mean, I was on somebody's post, and I'm thinking that the Vikings could still possibly take a quarterback. Maybe they groom somebody, right? like we've seen now with the Packers do, right, over time, right? Maybe it's time that, teams start doing it, and especially with Cousins where maybe it is another, 1 or 2 years, like, we don't know, but to have
Mhm.
somebody that can kinda sit behind him that might not be, necessarily ready yet.
Yeah, I feel that.
I'll get Fields to ATL. Listen, I mean,
We talked about the Bears, and I was actually talking with Bagala today, and they're just in such an advantageous position, but it does put pressure on that front office to cash in on their situation. Like it's so interesting. Do they keep Fields, trade the one, get a haul for it? They also have the 9 pick, so they have the 1 and the 9 this year. Do they trade down to 2 with Washington? And do they trade that second pick, that second overall pick again and get an even bigger haul? Like there's so much they could do. Do they draft, do they draft Marvin Harrison? Do they slide down a little bit? Do they pick neighbors? Do they trade Fields? There's so much that can happen with the Bears. And I said this on the previous show last week is that this is a defining offseason for the Chicago Bears and what they do, because they're in a really good position from a draft capital standpoint and what they have on their current roster, that they need to cash these chips in, because Green Bay looks like a solid young team. Detroit doesn't look like it's going anywhere. I'm not crazy about Minnesota, but if Kirk Cousins comes back and they have Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson, they can contend for a playoff spot. So the Bears really need to get this correct this offseason.
yeah, for sure. It's tough, like, we could have a whole show on the whole Bear situation
Yeah.
and what are they
Oh
gonna
yeah.
do, right? Do they just wanna reset the
Absolutely.
clock? Is it time to just say, "You know what? Fuck it, like, let's just go with someone else." Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
whole new regime coming in, right? So it's gonna be
Yep.
it's gonna be rough. I know it's early, but would you trade the 107 for London?
Superflex, I probably would lean no. One QB or anything not superflex, like one QB, yes, I would do it. And I guess it depends on the starters as well, but I'll boil it down to superflex. I'm not doing it. Non-superflex, I'm doing it.
I'll do it either way. I'll take him for the 107. It might be a little richer price to pay, but maybe you get, like, a little kickback, third or BS running back. I mean, it's tough because we know what he can do, like, and all we
Mm-hmm.
need is the situation to change. So I'm easily giving up the 107 because I know it's not a top quarterback at that point, and I know it's not Marv or
Neighbors.
Neighbors most likely. Is it Brock Bowers? Maybe. So, in tight end premium, maybe that's a decision, but I'll take London for that.
He's in a start 10 superflex, he said. I'm at the bottom. So just for some context on this question,
I,
10
I'd take
starter
I,
superflex.
I take London for that, but do you have to do that right now? Is that something that'll be on the table, once we get to the draft? Because at that point, like, that pick is going to be people are really going to want that pick. So
Yep.
could you possibly do something better than London at that point, or would that trade still be on the table? So I would think that you could probably still get that done around draft time. So I probably want to wait. Like, I don't know if I just want to pull the trigger right now. You know,
That's fair.
Ryan, what up, Ryan? Do you prefer Higgins or Puka from a dynasty perspective?
If
Let you
if you're
go
just
first.
asking in a vacuum, I think it might be Puka, but it's a nuanced question, right? Because if T Higgins re-ups in Cincinnati or he goes to Kansas City, right? Now that conversation changes a little bit. So as things currently stand, I'm gonna take Puka, but how much longer is Matthew Stafford gonna play? You know what I mean? He is a little bit older. He's gotten banged up the last couple of years. I know this year was a nice little bounce back, but I believe he missed a game or two this season. But as things stand currently, I'm gonna lean Puka just because of the volume and everything. And T Higgins has been getting banged up like a lot. He's been a bit of a liability out there for you if you drafted him fairly high. So give me Puka here.
I think for sure it's Puka. Obviously, he just had the 6th season, right? Stafford's still around, so you can still kind of count on him. Once Stafford's gone, I mean, I guess could be another conversation at that point. But for now, yeah, I mean, Puka is safe. Higgins, we don't know the situation. Does it go back to Cincy? Does it go somewhere else? Is he going to have wide receiver 1 numbers? So I'm gonna take Puka, but can I trade Puka for Higgins plus? I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that. Depending on obviously your situation, but just if you're talking about 1-on-1, then yeah, I mean, just give me Puka. Especially because everyone loves Puka too, so he's easier to move off of if you need to, if you need to.
That's a good point too.
Not Curry, that is Pitts and ATL right now. That's true.
PB, you can make the argument Bijan and London,
evenly.
right? You can make the argument for Bijan and London as well. Like, bro, Arthur Smith, you're not you weren't doing what you needed to do, but we're excited that Arthur Smith is out of there. And who do the Falcons bring in? That's going to be another interesting offseason question as well at the head coach spot. Not only the quarterback, but who's the head coach going to be?
Is there anything I can do as a Kelsey owner, or is he dying on my roster? No, he's dying. You gotta just die with him. I mean, unless you can if you can get a first or something like that, then yeah. But I don't know if you can get a first. So
we talked about this. We talked about this last offseason, right? With Kelsey being on a lot of these dynasty roster reviews that we were doing. And we're just like, Kelsey's one of those guys that, if you don't, you're going to end up coming off him a year too late, or trying to come off him a year too late, just because he's so amazing. The production was so ridiculous. You're going to try and come off him a year too late. And at that point, people are going to look at it and be like, bro, why would I trade Kelsey when, like you said, there are some up and coming tight ends out there? Dalton Kincaid, obviously Sam Laporta. I think Michael Mayer has a promising future. We see what the Packers tight ends are doing in Musgrave and Kraft. Like, for the value, it's just it might not be there because there's other good young up and coming tight ends.
Nobody wants him right now until we get to the season and he's scoring points. But in the off season right now, nope. We're gonna cycle back to old NFL sitting QBs.
What does he mean? Like in that week 18 thing?
Oh,
listen, if you, I think that's what you mean, PB. Well, listen, if you're the Ravens and you got the 1 seed locked up, why are you playing Lamar Jackson? If you're the Rams and you have a 35-year-old Matthew Stafford, why are you going to play him against San Francisco if you have a playoff spot locked up? So I agree with a lot of that. If you still have something to play for, go for it.
He said like sit in love for 3 years. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I don't think we don't have the patience nowadays. I mean, NFL owners don't have the patience. They don't have the patience with and then the coaching staff is changing. You don't have time to develop guys. Like, you've got to make the right decisions, like right there in season 1. I mean, we see guys get fired after 1 season.
For sure. For sure. I think a lot of teams don't do that. Even Kansas City took a kind of piece of that, and Patrick Mahomes sat for a year though, not 3, a year. So, and not a lot of teams have that kind of patience, especially if you picked in the first round, you're playing. If you're a first round quarterback, you're pretty much guaranteed to play unless you're Jordan Love.
And to be fair, I think the Packers are the only team that doesn't have an owner, right?
Yep.
So
the organizational structure, yeah, they are different. They do things differently. Their organizational structure, like you said, is different. But I think more to your point, teams don't have time to wait around for 3 years.
The fan base doesn't want to wait around for 3 years. You can't.
No, fuck no.
Nobody wants to wait 3 years. Doug, what's up,
Absolutely.
Doug? Y'all have jobs outside of fantasy football. Yeah, of course we got jobs outside of fantasy football.
We don't have enough subscribers.
We don't get paid. We don't get paid for this. Maybe one day. Well, yeah, we don't charge for anything really. I mean, right now we can get to kind of everybody. At one point when it's too overwhelming, maybe at that point we can, maybe have to do something of that nature just to make sure we're serving the people well. But for right now, we can kind of reach everybody. But yeah, we do have jobs outside of this.
Yes, we do, Doug. Yeah, I work with people with special needs and I do real estate.
And I Used to work at the car dealership. I just quit. Yeah, and now I'm a real estate agent as well, so going just
Beautiful.
full-fledged in that at the moment.
So if you need a house, hit us up in the DM.
For sure. Or if you need to
Always got
sell
to
one.
advertise, kid. Yeah, buy, sell, rent.
Diaz, what up, Diaz? What's goody?
My man Diaz.
But yeah, we are normal, tax-paying, abiding citizens. So,
Which is bullshit because the amount of taxes they take out of my check is just ass rape every time I look at it. I got a bonus over the summer. The amount of taxes they took out of my bonus was just like it's like theft. It's like highway robbery.
oh, always, it's always some bull jive.
Like, god damn.
I knew what DS said he missed y'all, but y'all too soon after trades in 5 always end up missing the first 30 minutes. I know they have their shows on Tuesday too. And yeah, I usually watch it like during the week at some point if I can, because those are long too. So it's like, 30 minutes on the drive into work and 30 minutes home. And Ryan, what would you send Dak and CD for Mahomes and Marvin Harrison Superflex?
Ugh.
Not if I'm winning right now. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not.
that's tough, man. I don't think
CD's
I'm
up
doing
there.
that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm pulling that trigger.
I mean, value wise, like, yeah, Mahomes, and then Marvin is going to be up there, obviously. So, give me some more details. Is it is it start 10, Ryan? It is super flex, he says. Because CD's up there already. So, can you afford to lose the CD production and still have a chance at winning going to Marvin Harrison? That's really the choice because I want Mahomes more than Dak, and can I live without CD and go into Marvin?
See, the problem is, and listen, I still think obviously Mahomes is amazing, but that Dak to CD, man, that stack is so awesome, and I think it's gonna be awesome for a significant amount of time. Dak's not that old. These guys are in their prime. Like that's probably the number one combination. You could make the argument Burrow to Chase, um, as far as stacks go, but Dak and CD right now, man, these guys are cooking, and it's the top stack in the league right now and heading into next season.
Which brings up like talk of, okay, is CD go over Chase now in Dynasty? I mean, a lot of people now are talking about that, and people wanted to put CD at number 2. I mean, obviously it's a tier, but I guess we can make the argument, but I think that's more recency bias, but at the same time, I mean, shit, CD went off, like,
Yeah, CD's been amazing, and there's CD never gets hurt. Like I never see him on the injury report ever.
no.
So, Dak had that freak injury a couple of years ago, but outside of that, Dak doesn't really get hurt that much either.
No. No, he's not running as much as he used to either, but
Even then, he wasn't getting hurt. He didn't get hurt because he ran. He got hurt because he threw the ball and then he hit his hand on a guy's fucking helmet.
PB Dubs. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I know we do a lot more live content than we do like actually posting videos, and those obviously get a lot more views and subscribers. So it's rough because it's hard to edit. Like a lot of these channels, like they've got editors and stuff. Like I ain't got all that. So
Shout out,
it's just us doing it. But
shout out to everybody who checked out the wide receiver stash video. I believe they got over 2,000 views. So
yeah,
shout out
cool.
to y'all. That was fucking amazing to see
Receivers,
that.
and even the running back
the running backs,
got like
running backs over
1,200 or
1,000.
so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, those were good ones. But yeah, we have the 500 subscriber monetization. So, we can do, you can do super chats and you can, subscribe to the actual channel, which I think is like $1.99. And then you get like the stickers or whatever. But that's what we got for the moment. But trying to get to that 1K. So if you're not subscribed, help us out. Smash the subscribe button. Rams or Lions? I think we were briefly speaking about that earlier. I still got the Lions, but like Hammer said, it is kind of it's not clear cut.
No, no, it's not. And I'm gonna surprise you. I've been talking with Bagala, and we're gonna make some bets over the weekend. I think I'm gonna take the Rams. I think I'm gonna do it. I like what Matthew Stafford's got going on. Obviously, Puka and Cup. Demarcus Robinson has emerged as a really, really good third option on that team. Kyron Williams is an all-pro type running back this season. Like, they have all of the pieces offensively. And listen, Detroit's defense is not that good. Like, they're not. And it's for me, they match up very well. Now I know the Rams defense isn't that great, so I'm gonna take the Rams to win it on a late field goal in the fourth quarter.
I can see that. I can see that for sure.
And the Rams have the experience, right? A lot of these guys, well, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, particularly, they have championship experience. Like, that head coach has championship experience. This is the first rodeo for a lot of these guys on this Lions team. And you could look at that as a good thing or a bad thing. But for me, I'll look at the Rams side. They have the championship experience. They have a veteran quarterback, really good receivers, a good running back. I'm going to go with the Rams by a late field goal.
Nick, Yoshivas ahead of times with the stash video. Yes, sir.
We talked about Iosivas earlier in the
Yes.
season when Chase and Higgins were going through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I actually picked him up one week, and then I ended up playing somebody else. I think Chase did play that week, but
He scored 2 tutties last week.
Did
2
he?
tutties in week 18. Yep.
How about that?
5 for 36. But that's why we try and put out those stash videos a little early because sometimes these teams might not be playing for much in these later weeks, and sometimes these younger guys get work, and then that's it. Once they got a big game, now his name's out there, right? People ain't giving him up for nothing now. Even a few weeks ago, week 16, he had 8 targets.
Yeah, we've touched on him. He's not a complete unknown, but somebody that a lot of, especially if you have shorter benches, that it might be hard to stash a guy like him. He's, fourth, fifth
sure.
on the wide receiver depth chart. So, but
Going into
next year.
Every league is going to be, different. So depending on your league, he may not mean anything or, he may mean something. So. Yes, at IRS tip, you're going to get a bonus, lower your taxes 2 weeks prior, and then raise it back up. You're allowed to do it 3 times a year before phasing the luxury. Okay.
That's interesting because the way my job is set up, I have an app on my phone that I can go ahead and just like edit my tax information. I can pretty much edit all that stuff. So that's interesting, but I think they let us know maybe like a couple of weeks before. So I never really thought about that, but even still, man, it's just like fucking goddamn, man. 33% of my bonus is in taxes. What the deuce is that? What the fuck? Like, I mean, the bonus was substantial, so I saw a nice chunk, but goddamn, bro.
Then we got to pay tax again, whatever we buy.
Right. The fuck? I actually saw something recently that said you pay taxes on your paycheck. You pay income taxes at the end of the year. You pay taxes on shit you buy. Like, what the? Where's all this money going?
Right into somebody's pocket.
Is it going to the $10 million nuclear warhead they're building? Is it going to the $1 billion fucking stealth bomber? Jesus.
Ryan said he just won the ship. So
okay.
Do we just run it back, or is now the time where you say, okay, let me just take Mahomes? And
I always say if you win the championship, don't stay pat. You want to fine tune your roster and kind of have a little bit of foresight, but I wouldn't make wholesale changes.
Okay. So you're telling
like
me,
that.
wait, you have the 102 right now, and that deal is on the table. So if you want Marvin, like, I don't
In a
You
super
can
flex? Is Marvin
try and
going
just
number 1 in a super flex?
he could. I'm okay with taking him 1.
What I'm saying is because he has the 102, he might not even have to make that deal. He could probably get Marvin at the 102.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can you wait and see what happens, or on the
Right.
clock, maybe, or maybe you just try and move up to the 101 if you have to, like. But
Yeah, I would Ryan, I
I
would
wouldn't
lean
do that.
that way. No,
I
not with the
would be
102.
even okay with neighbors, like if you had to. Like, can you move back, pick up some assets, and grab a, and grab a neighbors, or do you just grab the QB there and then try and trade that QB for something?
There's the other receiver, Odunze or something like that. Like
Doing that,
that's
yeah,
another.
but
Like I'm not gonna tear down a really good situation. You know what I mean? Especially you coming off the championship and you have good assets to you don't
uh,
even to reload.
can I just buy Amon-Ra?
Yeah, like
I think you have a few options there, so I don't know if you necessarily need to make that trade, but yeah, I haven't been doing that in a while.
yeah, I have been doing that for a hot minute, Will.
Outside of Brees, running back's my weak spot. You're fine right now. Do you think Kelsey, Pollard, and Higgins package would be enough to bring in a top tier running back, or should I look to sell those guys individually versus a package?
I'm not gonna start piecing all that to go buy a running back. I know Blanc, you talk about this all the time as well. I would go and look to gain value, right? Because a running back is like a vehicle. The minute you get it, the value depreciates. So when you trade those 3 pieces for a running back, it's not even worth it at that point, to be honest with you. So I would try to individually or piece 1 or 2 of those guys together and see what you want to go do. Because remember, you can get a running back off the waivers. You can get one of these backup RBs. That fill a role. We talked about it all the time. Zach Moss, Jerome Ford, boom, Kyron, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. Like, I don't think you need to go out and buy a running back. You could do something better with those pieces, in my estimation.
Yeah, you got Brees. Like, you have a chance to wait for the season and then piece together some kind of running backs at that point. I don't know if you necessarily need to go get a top tier running back. Now, what do your other wide receivers look like? Like, are all these guys expendable? Like, can you go and spend on a top running back? Like, do you have all the assets? Are you in a position that you can do that where, it doesn't kill your team? Like, there's various different kind of situations here. So I think for the most part, yes, like I'm doing them individually. I'm not packaging all 3 of those together. Like I'm okay with packaging 2 of them. I mean, if that gets you, Jahmyr Gibbs, then fuck, by all means, yeah, give me Jahmyr Gibbs. But I don't think that's gonna get it done.
Still, I would still be hesitant to give up that much for Gibbs.
Pollard means nothing to me.
I understand. I'm stating that I feel like
Well,
there's more
especially at this
value
point.
there. Yeah, because Pollard, obviously, with the season he had, and I believe he's a free agent, no?
Yeah, well, I'm saying with Gibbs, you can get anything more. Like you have a better chance of getting a higher profile player with Gibbs than you do kind of with any of these guys here. That would be my main reason to do it. But yeah, I'm okay with just waiting or start maybe buying some of these Chase Browns, like some of the guys that we talked about earlier. Any of these backup running backs or any of these second guys that can come in and actually just have some kind of role, the Antonio Gibsons, who, obviously turned out to be nothing this year, but just happened to not turn out. But yeah, I mean, you're good with Brees as like your anchored running back, like so you just could fill in, especially if you're set at wide receiver. So when he's going to Ukraine and Israel, yeah, it's crazy what we do with our money. We give it away to like.
I'm not an overly political guy, to be honest with you. I
Me
kind
neither.
of steer clear of that. But it's when you look at it, it's just like, my God, man, if you live in some of these states where these taxes in general in the United States are crazy, but if you live in New York or California, or like, I want to move to Florida, no state tax, like my money deserves to go in my pocket because I worked for it. I'm all about paying some tax because there is whatever, but yeah, we'll keep this train moving, but it just pissed me off.
With the 101 has Mahomes and Hurts has explicitly stated he's going Marvin. That's
So
fine.
I'm curious. Oh, because if he traded Mahomes, he would get the quarterback in Dak and CD. I see what he's doing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you got the 102, man. You're in an advantageous position in terms of your team kind of being a contender. I wouldn't want to shake things up that much. I would just look to add around the edges and make your team even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be fine taking Caleb as well. So, and you got options. You got options. Debate question: Bijan or Gibbs? Full PPR dynasty. We
did a
just
show on
did
this.
RB1. We just did the show on the RB1. Go check it out on our channel. I edited it, so it's all down to just the discussion of the RB1, and not the whole 2-hour, 2.5-hour show, whatever that we did that night. But yeah, you can always go check it out there. But now, right, things have
We
changed
talked about it.
since we've made that video, right?
We talked about it. Yep, that was the
Coaching
caveat.
staff, Arthur Smith is out now. So what happens? Who goes in there? Does Bijan get the reins? Is he going to be everything that we imagined him to be and what he's supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, I'll still be interested to see who they bring in, not only at the head coach, but the quarterback position, right? So both of those things are going to be, factors in how we feel about Bijan going forward. Listen, we all think Bijan's amazing, and if all things were equal, Bijan would be the RB1. But there are some factors involved that we talked about in the last show. So yeah, I'm still taking Gibbs right now, but listen, they bring in a really good quarterback and a solid head coach, and that could obviously be not the case. So, but I'll still go with Gibbs now because I know what I'm going to get.
True. It's hard to not go Bijan. Like, it really is.
Yeah,
I might have to go Bijan because, and we talked about it on the show where it kind of feels like
that was the floor.
Like, okay, yeah. Is that the floor? Is that the floor for Bijan? What he's doing? Because he's kind of getting almost as much work as Gibbs is kind of right now, but he has that potential to actually take the real workhorse load, to take the
Yep.
real, 20, 25 carries plus the receiving work. He's got that type of upside. So is that going to happen? That is going to be the real question. Or are they going to just try and preserve him and save him and, not give him all of that ton of work, but give him enough to still be, productive just as Gibbs is. Like, but we need that extra. That's what we're looking for in Bijan. We're looking for that extra, right? That CMC type seasons, those, Saquon type 1 seasons. Like, we're
Derrick
looking for
Henry
that.
when he was rumbling.
The Derrick Henry. We're looking for all of that with Bijan. So is it worth it to risk that?
I think the Falcons and the next Falcons head coach would be absolutely crazy to follow in Arthur Smith's footsteps and utilize Bijan the same way he was utilized this past season. The head coach coming in has to know what that situation is. And forget fantasy for a second. Like, in order for the Falcons to win games, he needs to be a focal point of their offense. He should receive no less than 18 to 20 opportunities every single game. And you have Drake London and you have Kyle Pitts. So get it together, Atlanta.
Oh, man. Yeah, the little clip I cut up was funny where you were like talking about Dan Campbell and you were like, he's not dumb.
Yeah, I saw that. But come on, dude. Like, it's almost a mirror situation in Detroit, right? Because Gibbs was there, and listen, Gibbs wasn't great out of the box, so I'm not. But they had Monty. Like, you're telling me Tyler Algier should be cutting into Bijan Robinson's work that much? Like, so
Hammer was going in.
no, and I'm
He's like,
normally a
it's a
mild.
bet. He's got a better coach. He's got a better team. He's got a better organization.
All those things not accurate. So
Oh man.
so for me, it's like, bro, it's not that difficult to utilize your best players. Arthur Smith tried to be the smartest person in the room, and he ended up getting himself canned.
Yep.
Rant over. I actually watched the clip,
Well,
and I
he's
was like,
trying to roll
damn,
with
I was.
Ritter. He's trying to roll with Ritter. I mean, we all knew Ritter wasn't it.
That's bull jive because now I'm not saying, and we actually have a comment from PB in here that relates to it, but the 49ers have Brock Purdy, and all their best guys get the ball. So
I mean, Ritter. I don't think Ritter is even as good as Brock Purdy, but
I don't think so either. But come on, you can't tell me that there's not a world like you said it at the. Why is Jonnu Smith getting the ball more than Kyle Pitts? Right? Like, come on.
Jonnu Smith is what throwing passes to fucking. Was he the one that threw the pass to Pruitt or whatever the fuck it was? That crazy play.
I don't remember, but even the principle is still the same. Like, bro, and this is I'm not even strictly talking from a fantasy perspective. I'm talking about on the fucking field, man. Utilize your best players. It's not that difficult, and the Falcons have a trio of really good players at the skill position. God damn it.
Ryan said mid-season traded Stroud for Goff, Kamara, and the draft pick that turned into the 102. Okay. AKA Caleb, for sure. Definitely missed Stroud, but Kamara and Goff helped me win the ship, and that's why we play. No, exactly. And you got the 102, and you're getting fucking Caleb. I mean, yeah, I'll take Caleb, Goff, and Kamara for Stroud, sure. You know, and we don't even know if Caleb's going to be good or not, but
boom. I mean, listen. It depends, right? What if he goes to the Bears? You feel good about Caleb going to the Bears?
I mean, he's got DJ Moore, so it's not that bad, but and they probably do get another wide receiver, so maybe it isn't that bad.
Who knows? The Bears have fumbled the bag on multiple occasions. They need to prove it before I feel comfortable in that scenario.
Yeah. New and Cole Purdy, a game manager. Porter asked him about it. He was quite humble with his answer. Yeah. He's the best game manager in the league. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I don't even like game manager gets such a negative connotation, and I'm not with Cam Newton 100%, but the point he was trying to make is there's only really 4 or 5 guys in the NFL at the quarterback position that are difference makers, right? And we do our quarterback rankings, we do a lot of these different rankings, et cetera, et cetera. There's only really 4 or 5 of those guys at that position that are difference makers. So to call somebody a game manager, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. Like, you're supposed to manage the game as a quarterback. That's your job, right? To not turn the ball over and get the ball in the hands to your best playmakers. It's not that, so everybody wants to get all PC and get all in their feelings. Like, relax, dude. Is Brock Purdy really good for the situation he's in? Yeah. Do I think Brock Purdy would be good if he was in Carolina? No, I do not. Or if he was in a different situation, I don't think he would be as good. But listen, he is what he is. He's a really good quarterback on a really good team.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Purdy is good. He's perfect for that team. All he has to do is be a game manager. I mean, you can't fault him for that. And I'm one to, I wouldn't say I hate on Brock Purdy, but my whole point on Brock Purdy, to maybe break it down in a different light, is you're down 14 at halftime. You don't want Brock Purdy as your QB at that point, right? Or going in the fourth quarter, like when you're down. Like, you can't count on Brock Purdy to do, to bring you back from that, because that's just not the way that offense plays. That's not how they run. And that's when we've seen them struggle, is when they're behind in games, when they have to score, from when they're down. And the defense knows, okay, well, pass is coming here. Like, so we know what's going on. That's when that's when we've seen him kind of fail a little bit. So I think that's the main thing kind of with Purdy, but that's okay. Like, he's not perfect, and they don't need him to do that for the majority of the games. So if they lose a game or two, like, I mean, that's going to happen. This is the NFL. So, but for the most part, he's been consistent, so you can't complain.
Listen, Tom Brady was a game manager before Randy Moss showed up. So let's stop with that. Okay.
Well, he was just
so,
smart as a motherfucker. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, but Tom Brady was a game manager before Randy Moss showed up. So let's cut out
He was,
like
but
that.
Brady can bring you back, as we know.
No, for sure. And I don't disagree that Tom Brady was good before, that 07 season where he just started going crazy. But like Tom Brady was a game manager. Like that's what he was. He wasn't throwing for 300 yards. He was throwing for 187 and a touchdown and winning the game 17-14 or 20. Those first 3 Super Bowls were all won by field goals. So like I hate when the people get all in their feelings, especially these people on like ESPN and all these networks where a game manager is a negative connotation. It's not.
He's just not, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen
But
Hurts
that
types,
but that
right?
but that goes to my point where, and that's exactly what Cam Newton was saying, and that's why I agree with his principle about it. Sometimes people say things that could be misconstrued, and I guess their tone of voice, their body language, when you're making these comments can get misconstrued. But the crux of Cam Newton's point was that there's only 4 or 5 of these kind of game changers, right? That's exactly what he said. There's game changers and there's game managers. And I agree with your point exactly. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. You could throw Aaron Rodgers in there, when he was healthy and kind of rolling a couple of years ago. Those type of guys. Joe Burrow, I kind of lean in that sense as well. But listen, there's a lot of quarterbacks that were game managers that were really successful. Quote unquote game managers that were successful. Russell Wilson, right? When he won his first Super Bowl with the Legion of Boom, was a goddamn game manager.
Trent Dilfer's got a bowl.
Right? Brad Johnson. So
we saw Mark Sanchez take the Jets to the,
to the AFC championship game twice. Exactly. So let's stop it. Ryan Tannehill went to an AFC.
But no, those are all, but same kind of thing. Those are guys that kind of manage the game, and then, they weren't guys that you wanted to try and bring you back if you're down, right? That's not what your offense is. That's not what you do. So,
no, I agree.
It is what it is. Yeah, game manager can be compliment if you're efficient. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Aikman was a game manager. His stats suck.
Yo, Crispy, what's really interesting. So I see a lot of these things on my Facebook that compare the stats of quarterbacks prior to say 2000, right? Outside of a lot of these Hall of Fame quarterbacks did not have great statistics. Joe Montana had really good statistics, but obviously the game was different. Like I'm taking all that stuff
Weren't
into
throwing
account.
like that, yeah.
Right. They weren't throwing like that. It was, a running back's time, right? There were a lot of really good running backs. So I'm taking that into account with my current comments. But if you look at Troy Aikman, like Carson Palmer has better numbers than Troy Aikman over the course of his career. So Troy Aikman, perfect example, was a game manager. That's the perfect example of what we're talking about here. And Troy Aikman's in the effing Hall of Fame. I don't know why I'm so jacked up today. Maybe it's because the Packers are in the playoffs. I got something to look forward to. I'm feeling spicy today. I might not go to sleep tonight.
All right, Hammer. Let's get into some buys for contending teams.
Yeah,
who are some guys that will be buying?
Okay.
Who you got, Hammer, as your first guy up here?
So to preface the preface, I sent my notes to Steve and he got all excited. He's like, Hammer's doing his motherfucking homework. I sent him my notes just so he's, knows who I'm going to speak about. And I didn't know if you had the same guys or etc. There's actually a third guy I could add to this list, but we talked about 2 guys, and I'm sure, in the chat, we'll get a couple of more guys that we'll touch on as well. But I'm going to preface these 2 guys by saying these 3 notes that I have written down here. The first one is you only want to buy these guys if you're a contending team. And what I mean by contending team, if you're in a 12-team league, that's pretty standard, right? You want to be somewhere in the top 4 if you're going to go ahead and make a move like this. Another one of my keys is the guys that I'm going to mention should not be counted on to be your wide receiver one every single week. And that's something I talked about too when we do some of the roster reviews, especially if you have an older guy. You want them to kind of slot in as your wide receiver two at best, right? And then my third key to preface my guys are you should have a young stud wide receiver kind of already in place before you make a move. And those stud receivers I had listed was JJ, Chase, CD, Amon-Ra. Like you kind of want to go that route. First guy I have is a really interesting guy. One of my guys, a guy I've watched for a long ass time, used to play in Green Bay, currently plays in Vegas. That is Davante Adams. And I know a lot of people were, I don't know what Davante Adams is in a really weird situation, right? Because he's still really, really good. And if you go look at the final tally of his numbers, he was still extremely productive. He had 103 receptions for 1,144 yards and 8 touchdowns. That put him at wide receiver 10 in full PPR. And that's considered a down year for Davante Adams. Now, I know they had a lot of upheaval in that organization at the quarterback, at the head coach spots. So going into next year, there's still some uncertainty. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell? Is it going to be Jimmy G? I really don't know. And their head coach, right? They went 5-4 down the stretch quietly. The Las Vegas Raiders went 5-4 down the stretch with Antonio Pierce as their head coach. And if you look at Davante Adams' statistics over the last 4 to 5 games, he was really good and he was really, really productive. And I'm just going to kind of bring those up. I actually had them up, but I was looking at somebody else. So over his last 4 games, he had 10 targets, 12 targets, 6 targets, 21 targets in week 17. And that would have been your fantasy championship game. 21 targets, 13 receptions, $126, and 2 touchdowns. So if you rode with Davante Adams into your championship week, he paid big dividends. And like I said, I think Davante Adams' stock has kind of taken a bit of a hit because of all the things I previously mentioned. And I think he could be a good value. Now, there's going to be some inconsistency with his production on a week-to-week basis because of the quarterback play, because of all that stuff. But that's part of the reason. And I actually traded for Davante Adams midseason in our home Dynasty League, and I have Jamar Chase on that team. And that's why I felt comfortable enough to trade for Davante Adams, because I had my young stud wide receiver in Jamar Chase. So I think if Davante Adams slots in as your wide receiver 2 on your team, he has wide receiver 1 potential still in him. As evidenced by this season, he finished at wide receiver 10 in full PPR. So I think Davante could be a really good value, and he's 31 years old. So maybe somebody is looking to move off of him. And if you're able to cash in, he might be on the New York Jets next season, catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. So that's also something I didn't write down in my notes, but I was just kind of thinking about. So I think Davante Adams could be a pretty solid value.
Yeah, I mean, I like Davante. Like you said, his value has taken a hit. Again, he's what, 31 years old? Is he going to be 32 going into next season? I mean, so definitely up there in age. That age cliff is a real thing, and it is going to hit. And when it does, it's going to hit hard. But I mean, the last 4 seasons, he's had 100 or more catches. The last 4 seasons, the last 5 out of 6, over 100 catches. So, like you said, still finished winding up at wide receiver 10. I can expect, like, at worst, maybe a wide receiver 15,
12.
like, next season. So, yeah, he does make it worth it, and he shouldn't cost you that much. I mean, on Keep Trade Cut, he's wide receiver 28. I
There you
mean,
go.
75 overall. He's around guys like Josh Jacobs, Javonte, Cooper Kupp, Joku, DeAndre Swift. I mean, for sure. Give me Davante out of almost all of those guys there. I mean,
He's
you can make
still
an argument maybe for Jacobs, but
Davante is still a needle mover. like on a per week basis. He can still move the needle. Like week
Mhm.
3, he had 13 catches on 20 targets for 172 and 2 touchdowns. And then he had that monster game I talked about in week 17, against Indianapolis. Like I said, I don't think Devontae Adams is going to be the Devontae Adams from Green Bay anymore, or even the Devontae Adams from last year, because last year he was amazing with Derek Carr. Now, what if the Raiders get a quarterback of note? What if Russell Wilson goes to Vegas?
Yep.
Feel better about
But
Devontae?
he's a guy that you want to be looking for if you're trying to contend, that you can get for not necessarily a hefty price tag, especially now going into the offseason. He's an older player, so the value's down at that point. He's a guy that almost is about to fall off the cliff at this particular age. People don't like messing with that. And, we're going into the offseason here now where all of these older players, all of their value is decreasing. Nobody wants these guys right now. It's not till they're putting up points that people want these older players. So in
A
the
la Mike
offseason,
Evans.
not a lot of people are going to be, wanting Devontae Adams. Can you get him for a keep trade cut? And which is kind of lines up directly as, a late first, early second. Where are we here? Yeah, early second round pick, late first. Can you get him for 2 seconds? Will you throw a 110, 111, 112 at him? Yeah,
Didn't miss a
that's what
single
we're gonna
game this
need.
year. Didn't miss a single game this year. He's been relatively healthy for the last couple of years. He's a physical receiver. That's one thing that does um you know that does concern me a little bit, but he takes care of his body. He's always out there. Even when he's getting banged up, he still seems like he powers through. I've seen him get kind of nicked up in a couple of games and he comes back into the game. There was one game in particular that it looked like he had taken a hit, and I think it was a nationally televised game, if I'm not mistaken. He took a hit, and I'm like, oh no, Devontae's out for the rest of the game. Comes back in the second half, plays pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. So Devontae's a really good, solid wide receiver too, on your team if you're a contender, right? If you have CD, if you have Amon Ra, you slot Devontae in as your wide receiver too. You feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. You think Adams is a Jet in 2024? Possible.
Um, I do
I
think
don't
it's
know.
possible. The Jets currently hold the 10th overall pick. Vegas holds the 13th overall pick. I think the Jets do need to address their offensive line in this particular draft. So it'll be tough. And also too, remember Aaron Rodgers' cap hit is coming due for next season. So they're gonna have to do some things with the cap to try and fit Devontae Adams in there. But anything's possible, man. I've seen crazier things happen.
T.O., when he was 32, had 3 great seasons with the Cowboys. Adams could easily do the same thing.
T.O. was a freak of nature. Like, I think T.O. could still play if a team signed him and go out there and catch
Oh, yeah.
50 passes for like 600
Well,
yards
he
and
was
4
still
touchdowns
playing. He was playing with
in the
fucking,
Canadian,
Johnny Manziel
the CFL,
one of those. I don't know if it was necessarily the CFL, one of those
USFL,
arena.
USFL.
No, it was it's like the fan league, like, they choose the plays and shit. It's some kinda
Okay.
I can't remember exactly what it was called. Somebody help me out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Devontae could still be productive for another 2 to 3 years. Obviously, it'll tick down a little bit, but that's the foresight you have to have when you have these older guys. And then I'm going to mention another guy that's very similar, where you just slot them down, right? You have your next young studs already there in the subscriber league. I have Chris Olave and Tyreek Hill, and that's kind of how you work it. And then I think I have Dubes and another couple of young receivers, but you can take a chance on these older guys if you have some young studs where even if they lose some value and they have to die on your team, all right, that's fine. They could slot down to my wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and I have the young guns to pick up the slack.
Oh, there goes a controlled football league. There you go.
Interesting.
Controlled football league. Can I see this?
Skipped over a couple of Facebook user questions.
I get my bad. Hopefully going to McCarthy's
Before
house.
that.
No. Oh, my bad. Facebook user. Pack vs. Cowboys is going to be a fun one Sunday.
I'm not as nervous as I used to be going into the playoffs with the Packers because we're not expected to win, right? The Cowboys are clearly a better team. However, we're playing well. Like, we're playing very, very well. Defensively, I'm not going to overreact to beating the Bears and the Vikings, but we're playing well enough offensively where I think it could be a game. I'm hoping Christian Watson plays. I'm hoping Musgrave plays. Hopefully Jaden Reed is healthy, but it definitely should be a fun one. And that's turned into a pretty good rivalry over the past couple of years, with the playoffs. But I'm just hoping for a good game, right? At a Jordan Love. I just don't want to see him go out there and throw 3 interceptions and kind of lose that momentum that he's built up here in his first season.
Yeah. You better go out there and be a game manager.
That's it. Manage the shit out of that thing.
Oh, shit. All right. My first buy for Contenders is going to be a guy that a lot of people just don't like right now, has let a lot of people down in the second half of the season. A guy that's getting a little bit older.
I know where you're going.
There is nobody else on that squad. He has finished wide receiver 3, 7, 4, and 9 in the past 4 years, and that is Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills. Could probably get him for a late first at this point, which I'm fine with spending. He's a guy that a lot of people are going to be coming off of. I mean, look at his second half of the season. It's been absolute trash. I mean, in the last actually few games, I mean, 65% of snaps, 60% of snaps, 46% of snaps. So
that's alarming.
Whether that is, due to injury or whatever the case was, I'm okay with taking a discount on it because we know what type of player Stephon Diggs is. We know what type of route runner he is, and he's still winning on routes. Like, he's still getting separation. It's not like he's not being able to win on routes or he's losing a step there. He is one of those guys that might be able to last a little bit longer because of his route running, right? It's not all relied on just the speed that he has. He's one of those route running technicians, as we see now in the NFL. Some of these guys that are coming in at a young age are being successful kind of early. So Stephon Diggs is going to be my guy. I mean, still 6th in targets, 9th in target share. I mean, 11th in air yards, like 17th in yards after catch. Like, he's still producing. It just hasn't been there for some reason for the last whatever few games there was. And I know there was a couple games in there where I think Josh Allen like barely threw the football. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, there was like a 24 attempt kind of game.
There was 3 games where he threw 15 times, 21 times, and then 30 times. So 7 completions, 15 and 15. So there just wasn't a lot going around in those particular games, which is way lower than kind of what he's been throwing all season. So there is a little bit to it. So I'm definitely going after some Stephon Diggs. And there's a lot of talk of like that he's frustrated, like, okay, maybe he gets traded. Bring that up. So there's a lot of things kind of to look at where he's a guy where there is some kind of controversy around, but I'm willing to go out there and take him right now for the discount before he starts putting up points and you can't get him next season.
I will say this. Listen, Stephon Diggs is a fantastic receiver. I don't think there's any denying that. Just look at his statistics, look at the impact he had on Josh Allen since he's been in Buffalo, right? There's no coincidence that when Stephon Diggs arrived, Josh Allen became a top 5 quarterback. There's no getting around that. However, he does have these diva tendencies, it's not like Devontae Adams getting frustrated on the side. It just feels different, right? When Devontae Adams gets frustrated on the sideline, it looks a lot different and it feels a lot different than when Stephon Diggs gets frustrated on the sideline for whatever reason. Maybe because they're playing in more important games than the Raiders. in the playoffs the last couple of years and they haven't been able to come through, but it just feels different. You know what I mean? And all the controversy that surrounds him. I don't disagree with you that he is a good buy because he's the older receiver, still productive. I just, something doesn't feel right. And it started last season. And we thought as long as they were winning, because remember, at the beginning of the season, they were kind of like a little Jekyll and Hyde-ish. And then they picked it up. Stephon Diggs was kind of going nuts there for a little while. And then the wheels just fell off for whatever reason. And what's interesting about the Buffalo situation is that they won a bunch of those games they won their last 4 or 5 in a row, and Stephon Diggs wasn't very productive.
He missed that one tutty they should have had.
Right. Yes. Against Miami.
Yeah.
Against Miami. But you know, their winning streak towards the end of the season, Stephon Diggs wasn't a big part of that. And the alarming thing to your point is week 14, he played 79% of the snaps. 15, 16, and 17, he played 46, 60, and 65. And they needed to win all those games, right? Because they needed to win that division, right? They were going for the division. They weren't locked into a playoff spot by any means. So, yeah, it's a little concerning to me. I still think he'll be productive, but there are some weird feelings or weird vibes with Stephon Diggs, in my opinion.
I mean, he went back up to 88% snaps on against Miami when that was, a game that matters. And then,
For all the marbles.
there were those other games where they didn't throw the ball a lot. So that had to do with probably his snap percentage at that point. They did change the offensive coordinator as well.
They did.
So, it's not something I'm particularly worried about. And then, like I just said, last game, he could have had that huge tutty, which would have changed. He would have had, $150. $160, like, so, that would have changed a lot as well. But yeah, I'm still rolling with my boy Diggs. Like I said, late first, maybe a second and a piece, maybe that you can get him for. And he's a guy that, he's probably got a few years left. Like, he is 30, so he is getting up there. But again, he is one of those route running guys that I'm willing to, pay a late first for if I'm one of those top teams. I don't have to rely on him as my number one guy, like you said, which is a really, important point. Because if you are relying on him as your number one guy, that means that you probably shouldn't be buying him, and you're probably not like one of those real contenders.
That's right.
And yes, right, Stephon Diggs used to pout like crazy. I mean, I know that as being a Vikings fan, but this year, and I had mentioned it earlier in the season, something changed with Diggs. He wasn't being a bitch this year and crying all over. He was actually different. There was actually footage of him going over to Josh Allen talking about, like, come on, we need you, So I saw him change a little bit this year. And did that have to do with everybody kind of getting on him of what we saw in the past, which was I was a person that was getting on him for that as well. So does that make, did that make him actually change and be more of a team player and be kind of different, or is it all just, kind of bullshit? So I'll let you guys determine that, but
I think it's somewhere in between. I think he was just more cognizant of how public his reactions are on the sidelines. So listen, I think Diggs is obviously still going to be super productive, but something just doesn't feel right. Even on that missed bomb that you were talking about, right? That doesn't usually happen when they're on the same page and they're rolling and they got their shit together. So it's just, it's weird, man. There's some weird vibe going on, and it all started in that playoff game against the Bengals.
My only thing is they're not traded. There's nothing that can happen. He's there. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. Is it possible? Yeah, but I don't think he's that dumb. I think that, he realizes, especially after being, like in Minnesota, and he sees, other good wide receivers around the league, he's got a top quarterback. He's got a guy that can get him the ball. He's got a guy that can make him a top 10 wide receiver. Don't be dumb, and if he does go somewhere else, you would have to hope that obviously it's a good QB situation, which if he is going to move somewhere else, you would think that would be the case. So I just don't really see him going anywhere, really.
Yeah, I don't either. I know there were some like very, very low rumblings of his status within the organization, but realistically, if you have Josh Allen, like there's still a window for the Buffalo Bills, right? Like the AFC is not this juggernaut that we thought it was going to be. There's some good teams. I think the Ravens have kind of separated themselves, but after that, right? Do you feel good? We could pick apart any of these teams outside of the Ravens, really, and even the Ravens, right? Lamar's health is always a concern anytime he takes off and runs, or something like that. So I think the AFC is still wide open, and I think the Buffalo Bills have a legit shot. And I talked about them earlier as one of my dark horses to go out and get to the Super Bowl because the expectation isn't what it was the last 2 years. So I think there's still a window, and I think Stephon Diggs has to be a big part of that if they're going to get to
So
that Super Bowl.
exactly. Like you said, they're not dumb. They gotta get him
You
the
love
ball.
that. You love that. Don't get me restarted. I kind of calmed down. Don't get me started again.
But yeah, I mean, PB Dub says it down here. Diggs is expensive to move. Maybe the ball and the Giants get him. But yeah, I mean, he's
Mm,
definitely going to be expensive to move. So that's why I don't really think he goes anywhere. Like obviously, there's a possibility, but I think he stays. And I think that being that there's all these questions and conversations that makes him number one more available and number two cheaper. Like
yeah, yeah,
you
I
know.
agree from that standpoint for sure.
Especially once we get up to the draft where even some of these late picks now, people are gonna start liking those picks. People are gonna start wanting them. So, yeah, Stephon Diggs would be my guy here, but let's get into another guy, Hammer. Who else you got for us as a contender?
So, as a contender, obviously, we talked about all the caveats about going out and getting these guys. This guy I'm a fan of. He's my guy. He's been my guy for a couple of years now. Um, and I actually went to go see him play a couple of years ago. That is my man from the Los Angeles Rams, number 10, Cooper Kupp. Okay. Now,
Okay.
the value, right? The value has to be there. There's obviously all the caveats I talked about. You shouldn't count on Cooper Kupp as your wide receiver one anymore. I think those days are over. But some interesting things. Number one, he is an older receiver that a team may not value anymore, right? Because of the inconsistencies, because of his injury history starting to creep up. And I talked about Cooper Kupp in terms of that triple crown season he had a couple of years ago. That has started to take its toll. But on the flip side, they just drafted a guy named Puka Nacua, who has seemingly been able to take some of the wear and tear and the load off of Cooper Kupp, where he doesn't need 20 targets a game. So I think that's a little bit of a factor in maybe prolonging Kupp's, productivity, not as a wide receiver one anymore, but maybe as a wide receiver two-ish now. And I think that's okay, right? Like you have to go in with that expectation that Cooper Kupp is a wide receiver two now. You can't treat him like a wide receiver one anymore. The Matthew Stafford bounce back. That's another factor in why I say Cooper Kupp, because Matthew Stafford seemingly has been able to bounce back. That team bounced back in a big way. Kyron Williams was big, right? That offense kind of really came together. And they were in a point in their season where it looked like the wheels were kind of a little shaky and they got their shit together, and the Rams are in the playoffs. I don't think many teams had the Rams in the playoffs this year. So the Matthew Stafford bounce back was really solid. And if you remember early in the season, Matthew Stafford wasn't really throwing for a bunch of touchdowns. Like something felt like he was trying to get himself back together. And if you look at Matthew Stafford's last month, he's been on fire. He's been playing some of the best quarterback of anybody in the NFL over the last month and change to get that team into the Super Bowl. So another one is he can still produce wide receiver one weeks. He played 12 games this year. He finished as a wide receiver one 4 times. So for my bank or for my buck, he can still move the needle, right? He had week 6, 7 catches on 9 targets. His first game back, he had 8 catches on 12 targets for 118. Second game back, 7 catches on 9 targets for 148 and a touchdown. And that's with Puka on the field, by the way. Then I think there was a little bit of an injury thing going on with him because there was a month and change where the production was just terrible. But if you look at his last month, he's been that guy again. Okay. 98, 97, 100, 100, 98% of snaps, 8 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets, 12 targets, 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games, over 100 yards twice. So for Cooper Kupp, you can't, like I said, can't rely on him as wide receiver 1. But if you slot him in as your wide receiver 2, maybe even wide receiver 3, if you got some other good pieces, your wide receiver 2A, I'd feel comfortable with that. So I think Cooper Kupp could be a bit of a value. And listen, his value may have taken a little bit of a hit because Puka Nacua is so productive. So that value may be there where if you go out and same thing with all these other guys we talked about, a late first or at least 2 seconds. I do have a little bit more worry about Cooper Kupp in terms of injury history.
Sure.
So he is a little bit more of a risk, but he can still carry wide receiver 1 weeks out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you got Stafford, you still got McVay coming back. I mean, we know what Kupp can do. I think the main thing about Kupp is he going to stay healthy? I think we're at a point in his career here where it's going to be a few games unhealthy, a few games healthy, and that's when we see him, play really well when he's healthy. Otherwise, Puka is the one that's getting the work. And Stafford now, I think Stafford started to understand that I don't have to force feed Cooper Kupp. There's some other guys that I can get the ball to. I don't have to play like how we did that season. I can spread it around. We got Puka, we got, Robinson that's playing well. Tyron's been awesome in the run game. We have other things that are working for us. I don't have to do that anymore. And I think kind of once he realized that he can kind of just let it loose and be free, and that Cooper Kupp wasn't the only guy that they had, I think that could be possibly when things kind of change. But yeah, my only concern is with Cooper Kupp is, you're going to get, 2-3 games injuries, and then you're going to get some good games. So I don't know about the ankle injuries, the leg injuries. That's the one thing that kind of puts me off on him. But if you can get him for a relatively good price, and I'm okay with it. But like you said, he is one of those more risky kind of buys because of that age, that injury history, and those ankles, feet.
But would you agree that and listen, not every season is going to be a carbon copy of the previous season, but there does look like there is a bit of a formula where, as you said, they could run the ball with Kyren Williams 23 times in a game. Puka Nacua can command 10, 11, 12, 13 targets that we've seen in games. So he doesn't have to shoulder. He's not going to get 190 targets anymore. That's not happening, right? No. If he's at 100 targets, 110 targets, I'm good with that. And he comes away with 85, 90 grabs for 1,000 and change.
He'll probably have more than that because he didn't play all the games this year.
Played 12 games.
Yeah, he could still get, you can still see him get, 125, 130 targets, if not more, maybe even. Obviously, like you said, the 190's out the window now, but. And then he's scoring tutties though too, right? If Stafford's throwing tutties, he's got 5 tutties. He didn't play all the games, so you're talking about even if he finishes with 1,100 yards, let's just say 1,100, 10 tutties.
There's value.
And then you got Puka up there with the 1,300, 1,400. We'll see if that continues into next season. As long as Stafford is there slinging it, I don't see any reason why, we should see anything different. So. Lego my ego, what up? What's goody? Can't wait until Saturday night at Arrowhead.
I'm excited for all these playoff matchups, to be honest with you.
For sure. Bowers in LA would be nuts. Yeah, I could see that. I could see the Chargers possibly pulling it too. But he'll go relatively early in the draft, so we'll see. We'll see who they go with. We'll see where he goes. All right. Who we just talking about? Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, buddy.
All right. The next guy I'm going to talk about.
I have no feel for this. I knew you were going to say Stephon Diggs on your first one. I have no idea where you're going here.
Well, because I think I had mentioned it a couple times before, I think, about Diggs. he could be a good buy this offseason. So my next guy is on a team that most likely drafts a quarterback at the number 2 spot on the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry.
Oh, that's nice. That's under the radar.
So yeah, I got Scary Terry as a buy for contenders, where the QB situation should get better, where they should be drafting one of these young guys, and he's a veteran guy that this young quarterback can possibly lean on. Right? Didn't have as great of a season as we wanted him to this year. I mean, wide receiver 14 last year, finishes wide receiver 28 this year. Does get over the 1,000 yards, but only 4 tutties. But Sam Howell just wasn't it. Just wasn't getting the ball to his playmakers. Does that change? Is Bieniemy gone? Like, we don't know what exactly is going to be happening. So you could say it is a little bit risky, but he is relatively way cheaper than any of the other guys. He's a guy a little bit more under the radar that you don't have to spend a ton for, that can possibly give you upside not only this year but for the next few years. He is still relatively young. He's not as old as some of the other guys that we've talked about so far. I mean, 28 years old. He'll be 29 going into next season. So Terry McLaurin is a guy that I like, especially late in startup drafts, maybe, that you can get a guy that can gain some value next season by putting up points, and he could be worthy to, a contender. So yeah, Terry McLaurin, if I'm a contender, I want to go after him. I don't have to spend as much as I would on a Stephon Diggs. So yeah, give me Scary Terry, and let's look at where Scary Terry's at.
He's probably down there. There's a lot of uncertainty in his future.
Oh yeah, wide receiver 34 at the moment. Wide receiver 34. He is overall 91. And when you look at guys in his range, I mean, Monty, B-Rob, Christian Kirk. Well, Christian Kirk is with the injury. I'm sure that's why kind of his value went down. But Jake Ferguson, Jalen Warren, Charbonnet, Stevenson. I mean, these are guys that are in the kind of range that Scary Terry's in. But yeah, give me a good route runner. Again, I mean, these guys are route runners. Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, and Scary Terry placed 3rd this year. One guy, he said, has got all 3. And let me. But yeah, I mean, Sam Howell wasn't good. We can expect the quarterback change, whether that is a veteran guy or if that is one of the rookies that's coming in. So
they're drafting a quarterback.
Yeah. But yeah, Scary Terry, not a good season, so the value has dropped, especially now going into the offseason. He's a guy that's getting a little bit older, so another reason for his value to drop and for more people to not want him on their team. Nobody knows what the QB situation is going to be. Nobody knows if they could have faith in Scary Terry, but grab him. What do you think about Scary Terry? I know you said you didn't know where I was going with this one.
Yeah, I did not have Terry McLaurin in my head, for this segment, but there's some things I agree and there's some things I'm not too sure about. I definitely agree with the value, right? And we talk about this all the time where it's connected to the value, because Terry McLaurin is not going to be as expensive as any of the previous 3 guys we talked about: Diggs, Devontae Adams, or Cooper Kupp. So the value could be there. The problem I have, though, is the previous 3 guys that we talked about can still give you wide receiver 1 numbers and really move the needle for you. Terry McLaurin's not doing that.
No. And I don't expect him to. But
Terry McLaurin's had 2 wide receiver 1 finishes per week on the season, like on a weekly basis. Week 4 against Philadelphia, he was wide receiver 8, didn't have a touchdown. And that's actually in half PPR. But even still, it just goes to show you. And then in week 15, he had the monster game. That's the needle moving game that I'm talking about, that he really only gave you 1 of those. And that was 6 grabs on 12 targets for $141 and a touchdown. Like, the previous 3 guys we've talked about have had multiple games like that. And that's why I think Terry is a little bit of a step down, but also he's cheaper. So you can look at
For
both
sure.
sides of the coin. You can look at both sides of the coin from that perspective. I honestly have really liked Terry McLaurin for a long time. And I think we all remember when he first came in the league, he was making catches and we were like, how the hell did he make that catch? Like, he's a professional wide receiver that I think has just been in really such a bad position, a bad situation. And to further my point, like, remember when Terry McLaurin was set to be a free agent a couple of years ago? And we're like, yeah, Terry's going to be out of there. He'll go to a good team, blah, blah, blah. Like, I really would have liked to see Terry McLaurin play with a legitimate quarterback and reach that wide receiver 1 type season that we thought was capable. His highest finish was last year, wide receiver 14. So he's never been a wide receiver 1. And I think some people, we tend to look at him as a potential wide receiver 1. So I think that's the disappointment in Terry McLaurin. He's always hovering around the mid-20s as a wide receiver. So the value is definitely there. I think the value is there. What value is that though? Because he's a name, but the production doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So what are you giving up for Terry McLaurin?
I mean, he's not obviously as high value as the other guys, right? But you're not buying him to be that, right? We're just, we want some depth. We're a contending team. I want some guys that can put up some points, right? That can give me production for not necessarily a high cost. I don't think you need to spend a first for him at this point. I think,
No,
an early to mid second can get it done. I'd rather spend a mid second and a piece. I'm trying to think if there is. Where's Terry at in here? Yeah, they've got him basically the same thing in here. I mean, early second for Terry McLaurin. So I'm okay with spending that if I'm a contending team. And if it's a late second and a piece, then I'm okay with doing that as well.
What are some of the other guys around his
Brian Robinson,
range?
Baker Mayfield, David
Wide receiver wise?
Montgomery, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, Jameson Williams, Christian Watson.
Just for context, I'm kind of
go down more. Deontay Johnson.
okay.
Calvin Ridley is even worse on there.
McLaurin's interesting, man. He really is. Because, like I said, we know the talent's in there, but it's like, God damn, man, you've been stuck with Sam Howell and Carson Wentz.
Give me some kind of wide receiver 2-ish production, a wide receiver 3 production with that upside that, that's what we're looking for. That's what we want. I want points on my team. That's not going to cost me much.
What's interesting?
Kill.
Yeah. What's interesting about Terry McLaurin is I know we had a debate a couple of years ago between Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore, and I think I like Terry McLaurin a little bit more, but DJ Moore went to Chicago and played with a guy that got him the ball. You know what I mean? And what's wild, what you said from the top with Terry McLaurin is Sam Howell was throwing the ball all over the lot the first half of the season, and Terry McLaurin didn't seem to be a big beneficiary of that. So it's like, God damn, can we get this guy involved? Like, can we let him be Scary Terry?
Yeah.
So
yeah, listen, I'm going out and buying Scary Terry, and I want him to be my wide receiver 3 flex guy, maybe even on the bench if I'm really up there, if my squad is really that good. If he's just going to be my backup guy that I can plug in and play in there when I need to. So that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for him to be a wide receiver 1 or necessarily a wide receiver 2. He's one of those guys that we just want that upside for. We want the points on a contending team. So
yeah.
Or is the
Got
main
any?
reason I'm afraid to
Oh,
take
go ahead.
shots. Go ahead.
Good.
I got it, brother. I was just reading some of the comments. Reminds me a little bit of Brandon Cooks as one of those undervalued kind of 1,000-yard wide receivers every season.
Not gonna
Yeah,
go
I can
crazy
see
on
that.
you, but yep. Any
I
honorable mentions that you kind of had?
I do have 2 honorable mentions, and they're both quarterbacks for Superflex leagues, which is going to be Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins.
I thought we were
Both
talking about wide receivers, but okay.
well,
Oh, it
I'm
says
going
buys.
little bit of everything. We're gonna, just buys in general. We don't got no running back buys because we ain't buying running backs right now. So, but yeah, I just wanted to throw in quarterbacks for super flex leagues. If you're
Okay.
contending, you need that third quarterback. Maybe that's not going to cost you a ton. Try and go after Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, both guys that are coming back from injury next year. We don't exactly know what they're going to give us, but you need that third quarterback or even fourth quarterback just so you have that depth at that quarterback position. I'm not trying to rely on them really as my QB2 going in unless I have some other QBs that some other QBs that are even worse than them maybe. But yeah, if you're a contending team, you should have at least 2 QBs already. So I'll take one of these guys to kind of take me over the edge. Maybe an injury happens, but I've got guys for bye weeks. I've got guys for injuries. I want one of those guys as QBs if I'm contending.
I like it. Maybe a couple of under the radar guys and a guy that was kind of hot this year and a hot buy. Mike Evans is another one to take an interesting look at. I think he falls in that category with a Devontae Adams type. Like he still has those wide receiver 1 weeks in him. He does, man. And he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receiver 1 weeks. So when I say wide receiver 1 weeks, I mean 12 or better. He's had 6 of those bad boys. Still a touchdown machine. But the uncertainty with his future, he's kind of cooled off the last couple of weeks. There is some uncertainty with his future. It's another 30-year-old receiver that's a bit older, but can still be your wide receiver 2. I think Mike Evans still has wide receiver 2 in him with wide receiver 1 upside, as I alluded to with the 6 wide receiver 1 week finishes. So Mike Evans definitely belongs in that category as well. We talked about him during the season if you were making a championship run. So I think you can include him here. And Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Same kind of situation, I guess, as Aaron Rodgers and Kirk, a guy that doesn't have a job, under the radar kind of at the moment. Does he get a job? Does he not get a job? I think obviously he'll get a job probably somewhere, but a guy that you can get for relatively cheap for sure if you're contending. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, so I think Russell Wilson, and listen, Russell Wilson didn't play terrible this season. Like he wasn't a disaster. Like he was really good. Compared to the previous season. So I think Russell Wilson still holds some good value, and he could be one of those under the radar type of pickups for you if you need a QB3 or even a QB2 at this point. I think Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson slots in your super flex, if you got Jalen Hurts or one of those top 5 guys, and Russell Wilson's your super flex quarterback, you don't feel terrible about it. Now it does depend on, like you said, does he get a job? I think he gets a job. I don't think there's 31 other quarterbacks better than him. 32.
The crazy thing is that there doesn't have to be for him not to have a job. Like
that's fair.
That's another
because he's
thing,
older. That's fair.
Part to think about, right?
That's fair. That's definitely fair. But I do think a team like the Atlanta Falcons we talked about in the previous show, that kind of, you slot Russell Wilson into Atlanta with the weapons that he has, and that Atlanta defense is not a slouch. So there's parts in Atlanta where they've won 7 games the last 3 years, I think. So you insert a competent quarterback with those kind of young stud weapons. You're telling me Atlanta can't win 9, 10 games in that division?
What about the
Vegas?
Raiders? What about the
Vegas?
Steelers?
The Steelers is interesting because Mike Tomlin, I don't know if those personalities match between Russell Wilson and Mike Tomlin. Who knows? But I think Vegas and Atlanta will be better fits than Pittsburgh, in my opinion.
See that. Saints? I'm just looking through the teams here and seeing like what could be possibilities here.
Saints, I'm not in love with. I know they gave Derek Carr money, but that's not they can get out of that pretty easily.
Yeah.
I think Derek Carr's a pretty good fit in New Orleans. Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know we talked about Kirk, Minnesota, Tennessee.
I don't see how Minnesota would do it because that like why wouldn't we just bring back Kirk if we're gonna wind up spending money? You know.
That's fair. Tennessee, little too
I think they're
uncertain.
rolling. I think they're rolling with Levis.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
they're rolling with Levis, but
New England's
But yeah,
gonna probably draft a quarterback.
but yeah, Russell is as a guy that for contenders. Again, I don't really want him as my second QB. I want him as like my extra QB, kind of that I'm holding. I don't want to have to rely on him because there is a situation where, like we see this year, he gets benched
If he
at the
doesn't
end
play
for
well.
whatever reason. We
Yeah.
saw a few guys get benched.
Yep.
With quarterbacks that we had that wind up getting benched down the stretch. Kenny Pickett, right?
Mm-hmm.
Few different guys. So
Sam Howell,
right? Guys that we thought we were going to kind of be okay with going down the stretch, and that just turned out not to happen. So one more guy that I did want to bring up.
okay.
This thing is fucking pissing me off up here.
I think it is like auto adjusting because it goes in and out.
Yeah, I gotta fucking play with it, and I'm like, all right.
There it is.
That didn't do nothing.
There it was.
I don't know. I gotta fuck with it. Anyway, another honorable mention I wanted to say before we got off was Travis Kelce. A lot of people aren't really liking him right now.
Okay.
He did still finish tight end 2. Like, did he fall off from what he has been? Yeah, but he's still a top tight end. So if you're a contender and you don't have one of those top guys, I mean, go see what you can get Travis Kelce for.
He didn't
He's
have a
still the
touchdown.
only guy there. He's still the only guy there.
He didn't have a touchdown. Well, I don't know. Rashee Rice has emerged.
Yeah, for now, but you don't think that,
I
and
understand.
this is a whole nother conversation when you're talking about Rashee Rice, you don't think that
Mike
the Chiefs
Evans.
are going to go out and add somebody to that wide receiver room after what we've been seeing? And what is that going to do to Rashee Rice at that point? Like, so I do have my concerns for Rashee Rice. I think he'll still be a good player for that team, but obviously his upside is going to be capped. They've got to bring in some kind of alpha. They've got to bring in somebody.
Man, what would Mike Evans look like in that?
That would look good. That would look good. I just
Keenan
don't
Allen.
see a world where, and this is why, when we had the wide receiver review, what we were talking about is, to try and move off of Rashee Rice if you can, being that his value is so high, because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, what's the chances they really don't bring anybody into that room? Whether it's free agency or drafting somebody.
No. They'll bring somebody in, and there's some interesting guys out there. I talked about Mike Evans, Keenan Allen.
Like, Rice is good, but do we really think he's going to be the number one guy for that team? Like, no, I don't think so.
I would agree with that, but I think he commands and going into his second season, he showed that he can play with, Patrick Mahomes and earned his respect, I believe, based on what he was able to do. But Kelsey's really interesting, to get back to your point. And we had a little bit of a back and forth with some of our people when I talked about Travis Kelce losing a step, and people automatically, wanted to burn me at the stake for saying Travis Kelce lost a half a step. But if you look at it, he hasn't been the same in the back half of this season, and he was hurt week 1.
But that's what he's been hurt. He's been hurt kind of all season as well. So can we take that into account as part of it?
But are you telling me a 35-year-old tight end that's played as many games as he has is going to all of a sudden be as healthy as he was 5 years ago? That's what I'm saying.
And of course, but if you're telling me I'm still going to get a tight end 2 finish out of Travis Kelce, like, okay, give me that. Like, you're not going to get the Kelce that's scoring over 100 points over the tight end 2 anymore.
But I think just to kind of push back on you a little bit, Kelce holds that value in name, so people are still going to want to charge you plus for Kelsey. Like as long as he plays with Patrick Mahomes, people are still going to want to charge you plus. So I don't know if the value
Sure.
is necessarily there.
Well, I think that obviously you're not going to be able to get Kelsey from a contending team, right? It just doesn't make sense for them to move off of him. You're
But
going to
if you're not
have
a
to
contender,
overpay,
yeah, I get
right?
that.
But
Okay.
if they're the only way you can get him would be if he's not on a contending team or maybe a middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
Right? At that point, maybe you don't have to spend that much. Will you spend the late first on Travis Kelce? Would you spend the 110 on Travis Kelce if you are a top team?
Probably, depending on what obviously what my other options are, but if that's so tough, man, because
Don't
like
forget.
how much more am I getting out of Kelsey? Am I going to get another
I'm not
year or two?
offering a first. I'm offering a second and some kind of piece. Maybe give a second and maybe my current
Okay,
tight end.
I could live with that, stomach that a little bit better than a first at this point.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to mention Kelsey in there. Any last guys you wanted to throw in there?
No, that was pretty much it. I talked about Russell Wilson and Mike Evans, Keenan Allen as well. But the thing with Keenan Allen is same thing that you could kind of say about Cooper Kupp, where we seen Keenan Allen break down at the end of the season, especially with that heavy workload early in the season. So definitely Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen to a little bit of a lesser degree because he's still going to put up those points and kind of even if he puts you in the position to get that 1 seed earlier in the season, but you can't rely on any of these guys to be your wide receiver 1 because if something happens, like not the great production you expected or injuries, to a Keenan Allen, a Cooper Kupp, some of those older guys, then you can be in a world of trouble. So that's the key.
Sure. I just traded Russell Wilson actually.
Hmm.
I said fuck it. So I was, just to go more into it. I traded Russell Wilson. What did I trade? Russell Wilson and who the hell did I trade? Russell Wilson, Elijah Moore. Let me pull it up. My bad. I'm butchering the shit out of this.
Oh, you traded the Supernova? Too soon?
Yeah, I traded Russell Wilson, Alvin Ridley, Elijah Moore, and a fourth
Okay.
for the 107 and Demario Douglas of the Patriots. So I felt like this trade was basically Russell Wilson and Calvin Ridley for the 107 because Elijah Moore and Demario Douglas, like, okay, I guess you can kind of wash it out. I like Douglas a little bit more just because they probably get a quarterback there. I mean, we don't know what's happening with Deshaun Watson, and we'll talk about that in a second here, Will. And then the fourth was just kind of a cherry on top because he didn't want to give me Douglas. He wanted to keep his wide receivers. And I was like, nah, I'm getting something else out of this. If you want Elijah Moore, like at least I just cancel that out because I wanted to just do Russell and Calvin for the 107. So at least I have some flexibility, probably not getting one of the top QBs, but can I get one of the top wide receivers? Flexibility to trade that pick if I want to, because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my team in this particular league and I'm saying, damn, I can try and run it back, but I know that my team like is really not that good. I was good enough to make it to the semifinals, and I lost the semifinals by 1 point. So I was 1 point away from the ship, but I'm looking deep at my team and I'm saying, like, I don't have a ton of value on this team where if I don't win after next season, I'm kind of fucked in like the position that I'm going to be in with some of these older guys that I have on my team. So I felt like it was a good decision to go ahead and move off of Ridley and move off of Russ. And I don't know what I'm gonna do going into next season. Do I tank the season? Do I, try and get a quarterback next season? Do I try and move up in the draft this season? But I've got some options that I can do with the pick. It just gives me a little more flexibility.
So
But
what's
yeah, what
funny?
did you think? What did you think about this trade?
What's funny about this trade is I heard about it before it was done. And I think you know where I'm going with that, but
Okay, you heard about it from Bagala, I'm guessing. Okay, so
I
what happened?
certainly did. He actually called me up and said, "Hey, what do you think?" I said, "Steve's trying to fleece you. Take him for everything he's got."
I was trying to fleece. I wasn't fleecing him.
No, I was just fucking around. But yeah, he was asking me my opinions about it, and I was just like, you got to do what's best for your team in that situation. You want to, he has a lot. He inherited that team. That was an orphan team that he inherited. So he's trying to fill in some spots and kind of, get some players that he can kind of start to make a little bit of a turn. But listen, I already knew when you were going after the 107 that you were thinking a couple of steps ahead. You're most likely not going to make that pick. You're going to package that 107 with something else and go do whatever you do. So I already knew when he had mentioned the initial framework of the trade what was happening here. But listen, you make the trade you have to make. You gotta, you want to get those assets and you want to get some ascending value, right? Especially as we get closer to the draft. And I think that was part of the key there for that trade, is to get ascending value, not depreciating value.
Yeah, I didn't want to make the trade because I wanted to try and run it back one more year. But then I'm just like looking at the team and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
so
I hear it.
Yeah, that's why I kind of decided to make that move. What else we got in here? Watson. All right, let's talk about Watson real quick. What about Deshaun Watson? Does he hold his value? I mean, his value is tanked. He's like QB, 18, 19 or something like that on Keep Trade Cut right now. He's even down in my rankings as well. Like, you can't really put him up above, Jared Goff or anyone like that right now at this point. So the value's tanked. I mean, you could say he's a really good value. If you want to, in startup drafts and super flex leagues, he should be a good value there. I mean, he probably shouldn't cost you much, now at this point. I spent Deshaun Watson in the 1-0. It turned out to be the 102, but it was like a top 6 like lottery pick. And I traded it before that it wound up turning into the 102. So I traded that and Deshaun Watson. I wound up getting Jamar Chase in this league. So yeah. So I was like, yeah, give me Jamar Chase here. But
highway robbery.
But yeah, I think he's a good value at where he's at right now. I just really don't know how much faith really that we can have in him. He's been injured all season this year. Like, do they open it up like they did with Flacco and just let him start airing it out instead of doing all this, instead of trying to run it or change the, maybe the offense isn't really fit for Watson and what they're trying to do necessarily there. Like, I feel like the whole offense changed with Flacco. Like, it just turned into some kind of air raid. Like, okay, maybe we do that with Watson. Maybe things change. I don't know. What do you think?
That's tough because we saw, like, and I mentioned this early, at the top of the show, where the Browns lost Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb. And they went on like a really good streak there where like they were firmly in the playoffs before the last week of the season. So for them to be able to lose those two guys who at the beginning of the season, you looked at it and you're like, damn, if they would lose Watson and Chubb, they ain't going nowhere. Credit to the defense, credit to Kevin Stefanski and that whole Cleveland organization for not having the rails fall off and finding Joe Flacco off his couch. Well, you mentioned Joe Flacco slinging it everywhere. You called it. And yeah, man, the Deshaun value, I don't know, man. There's a lot of uncertainty. And I think the fact that they've played really well goes into it, and it's like, damn, Deshaun, like Joe Flacco could come in here and play this well, and you didn't resemble any of that. Was that because of injury? Was that because of poor play? Was that because of scheme? Was that because, what was the reason that you couldn't play as well as a 38, 39-year-old quarterback who was on his couch? So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Sure. There are questions. Would you trade Kyron and Burrow for Puka and the 103? He says Burrow's been kind of hurt lately.
Yeah, he has, but Joe Burrow's still a dude, and he's clearly not going anywhere.
Oh, he's a dude.
Right, he's one of those difference makers we talked about. I think the Joe Burrow stock is trended a tick down because of the injury the last 2 years, really. Do you know for sure who the 103 is going to be? I think that factors in a little bit. Or I would imagine, is this a one
I mean,
QB? Is this a super flex? Like,
it's gonna be one of the QBs, but yeah, I'm not just gonna come off of Burrow. Like, yeah, Puka's great and the 103 is great, but Kyren Williams has got so much value right now. You can probably buy one of these top receivers or top-ish receivers in the Puka-ish range, or at least in that tier, and still be able to keep Burrow rather than take the chance on whatever rookie QB is gonna be at the 103. So I'm keeping Burrow, and then I'll
I
be
think,
trying to just move Kyren for, like I said, someone in the Puka tier.
yep, I agree with that. And I was kind of leaning that way as well. It's just intriguing though, because it is Puka and it is the 103 and Burrow's been hurt, but don't you don't want to lose that guy, right? Like all you need is Burrow to have, one of those seasons again where he's just killing people. But Kyron, definitely, I think you could move Kyron individually and get tremendous value right now or before the
Mhm.
draft. Like that, the key here is to move Kyron before the draft.
Yes, I think the value is as low as it is. Need to hit up the managers who have them and buy low. Yeah, Deshaun
Deshaun,
Watson. I mean,
but I feel
we were
like we
big on
we
him
we
last
said that
season and it
we said
hurt,
that
but it's
last
even
year.
yeah, but it's even better
Even
value
lower,
now at this point. It's like
I
you can't
guess.
go any lower than the
That's
value
fair.
that he's at right
That's
now.
fair.
Like so
That's fair.
that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. So yeah, I'll be trying to buy Watson. I mean,
That's fair.
depending what he's gonna cost, start throwing some low balls in there, trying to see what you can get, but
Hmm.
for sure. Kubiak was the OC 2014 in Baltimore with Flacco. Stefanski is a Kubiak disciple. Flacco was able to come off the couch and play in
That's
that system. Yep.
that's wild.
Yep. Chance to buy Joe Burrow in Superflex. He's been hurt pretty much his entire career. Yeah, I mean, I've seen him go up for sale in a few leagues or at least on the block, but he's available, but he's not necessarily cheaper. Like he's
No,
just available.
no. And the fact
Like
that he
that's
has
the
that
thing.
he has that massive contract is why his value is kind of not taking a dip.
Yeah, that's the but it's even lower, and he's starting no matter what you've seen that dead money hit for next year for Watson. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
he's playing,
for
don't get me
sure.
wrong. But tell me this. I like I thought Deshaun Watson was going to be a decent value. I stayed away from him just because I wasn't sure. Like I didn't know what to expect. And Deshaun Watson, for a quarterback, he's still incredibly young. I think we've seen him a ton. Obviously, he missed that year plus. But he's still incredibly young for a quarterback. But it was hard to watch him play football this season, outside of a couple of games. So it'll be interesting to see, because if he comes out and struggles again next year, then what's the excuse? Like we're running out of excuses for Deshaun Watson at this point.
Mhm. Or DS said, "What can you get for Kyron, a 107 in this year's draft?" It's tough. I have Kyron in one league, and they didn't even I don't think they opened the trading yet, so I haven't been able to see. But yeah, I'm gonna be trying to get a top 15-ish wide receiver if I can. Now I might have to add something on top of Kyron just because he's a running back, but there are people that have him as like a top 3, top 5 dynasty running back. So, if you can find a team that needs a running back and be able to steal away a wide receiver, can I get I don't know, Jalen Waddle? Can I get Nico Collins? Like, I'll take any of those guys, really. Min,
Not
DJ
feeling
Moore,
it.
Ayuk. I mean, find a team that needs a running back and see who they have. 'Cause that's what I'll be doing. In the league that I have Kyron, I am gonna be trying to get Garrett Wilson. I'm gonna be trying to get Chris Olave. If that doesn't work, I'll be trying to get Jalen Waddle, and I'll add whatever I need to, to get there. But if you're looking straight up, You might be able to get you should be able to get a late first. That's probably the range-ish, maybe. 107,
Not mad at
108
that.
at this point.
I wouldn't be
I don't
mad at
know if
that.
I'd go with mid, but I'd say that's probably right around. And guys, let us know out there in your leagues. I mean, have you seen any Kyren trades go down? Like, where are you guys kind of valuing him? I'm not spending that price on Kyren, but there are people out there that will.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, he ain't cheaper. He's just available.
Mhm.
Wow, Watson ain't getting traded. None of that's happening.
No, definitely not. With that cap hit.
Mm-hmm. They were trying to run the ball early in the season. By the time, yeah, exactly, yeah, for sure. Watson wasn't crazy bad. Like when he actually played, like he gave you decent points. Like I have him on a few of my teams. I bought a few shares of him in the offseason, but
I think the expectation was just so high because of the contract, because of everything surrounding him, that what you got, like he did, like he had a QB 5 week 1, he had a QB 10 week 3, he had a QB 8 week 9. So like there's something there, but it just obviously the injury kind of nuked that whole thing, and he missed games even before the season-ending injury. So I'm not on the Watson train. I'm not.
I'll take him. I'll take him for the price.
Would you rather have Jordan Love or Deshaun Watson right now?
Well, yeah, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the price. Like, are you
Okay,
trying
I
to pay
understand.
Jordan Love prices, or are you trying to pay Deshaun Watson prices?
It depends.
You know, honoring a 25 first. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because it's literally all over Diaz. I mean, there are communities out there that are loving Kyren Williams, and then there's guys like us where we're just like, yeah, fuck this guy.
I wouldn't say
But
fuck this guy, but
he's a
you have to
running
read
back
the
that we just
writing on the
don't want.
wall,
We don't wanna go and buy because he costs too much. He's just a running back,
and he could get replaced in the
a
next
late
year.
round running back at that. I'm not trying to pay for it, and when you have a guy that's valued that high, that's when you wanna move off. Not necessarily because we don't like him. Like, he's a good player. Yes, he's a beast as a running back. He won leagues this year,
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. But when it comes to the strategy portion of Dynasty, that's where you wanna try and make some moves.
The key is, do you want Kyren to die on your team? No, you don't. You want to get that. You want to extract that value right where it is.
So did send the offer for Puka for Kyren. He said he's gonna sleep on it. Look,
Okay.
you just offered Kyren for Puka. The guy's sleeping
Straight
on
up.
it. I mean, you kidding me?
That means the conversation's open. That means you got a
Bro,
shot.
I would throw a third in there just to fuck sleep
Sweeten it
on it.
up.
Do that shit right now. Sweeten the fucking pot. I ain't letting you sleep on it. So you
Yeah,
can
you don't want him
decide in the
to.
morning that you don't want to do it because he's a running back. No, if it's a conversation right now, you need to get that shit done now, bro.
You don't want him to sleep on it. Wake up and watch our YouTube show
No,
and be like,
ain't no
"Oh
sleep
shit, I
on it.
should."
Throw something in there. Throw something in there. Throw something in there. I'm with you on this DS too, where you can tear down from Love to Watson because of that value and pick up extra. I mean, for sure, Love is probably going in the thirdish round. I could see him at the 2-3 turn in certain leagues that really, are getting the QBs. I mean, I've seen him go as early as the 2-3 turn. I've seen him go as late as like the end of the third. So
Listen, I don't necessarily disagree with what Diaz is saying here. I'm not feeling Deshaun Watson like as I understand the value. I understand all that
I
stuff.
don't play
I'm
that
not
shit,
feeling it.
Diaz.
I'm not feeling it.
Hammer
I'm
don't
not
play.
feeling it. No, I want no parts of Deshaun Watson. No, thank you.
Well, the sub league trade. Which side are you on that?
Yours?
Or you like my side?
No, I'm asking. You're talking about your trade?
Yeah.
I gotta take a look at it again. Here we go.
Diaz, tell me what you think about that trade also.
So you got Demario Douglas in a first. You gave up
107.
you gave up Ridley, Russell Wilson, Elijah Moore, and a fourth. Yeah, I
Told
mean
you I
the
was
first
right.
is the first is going to be extremely valuable in our league in the sub league, so I'm cool with that. And I think Demario Douglas is pretty solid. Like he's a valuable piece. He could slot in there as a flex, and we have 2 flex positions, so
Told you I didn't care
you
about
know.
the fourth. I was just thinking, okay, Ridley and Tua, give me the fucking 107. And then, all right, I'll swap out. You want Elijah Moore? All right, fine. Just give me Douglas. And I'll throw the fourth in there to fucking sweeten the pot.
I think
He
I
didn't want.
think it worked. I think
Go
it
ahead.
works for both teams just from the standpoint of what he needed was to fill out his roster a bit. I wasn't necessarily going to part with a first round pick for some of the older guys that he picked up because his team is kind of in no man's land per se.
That is true.
But I wouldn't have done that. I would have if I'm giving up a first round pick, I'm getting a younger assets in return. Elijah Moore means virtually nothing right now. Calvin Ridley, interesting, right? There's still some upside
Yes.
there.
Mhm.
But and I think he got Ridley at a pretty decent value because before the season started, Ridley, was up there. So there could be some value in Ridley. And I think Russell Wilson has some upside as well in terms of if he goes to Atlanta, Vegas, maybe even if Devontae's still there. So there is some upside. I just wouldn't have given up that 107 for older assets. But I think it works for both teams.
I think he did it because he still got, I think, like the 104 or or
Yes, he
something
has
like that.
he has
Yeah.
my
So
pick. He has a 104.
you got the
But
112 and the 4. Bad, my bad.
yeah, but so if you have the 104 and the 107, I think you package that and go get yourself, a top-ish tier asset. And if you want to add something on top of it, you kind of but I understand what he was doing. He was filling out the rest of his team and kind of seeing if he could maybe squeak into the playoffs, but I don't know.
So you got the 401. I don't know. Does he like picks? I guess throw the fourth. I mean, the third would have been more enticing, but
Yeah, I'm hanging on to the 112 there.
yeah. No. We're not giving that up. So Joku ASAP. Yeah, his value has skyrocketed now. I sold him in one league, I think too early. Let me see if I could go back. This was before he started going off. Which league was this? Let me see what that trade was. Because I didn't really even give him up for that much. I got Joku for Roshan Johnson,
Okay.
Schoonmaker,
hmm
and a fourth. It was
Okay.
before he was going. This was before he was going off. So
Well,
I didn't cash out, but
I
I
mean,
like
Joku
Roshan
was
though.
going fucking nuts, dude. Jesus. He didn't play week 18, but that last month of the season, he was no less than tight end 4. Like, god damn.
Yeah,
He was getting a healthy target share even from week 7 on. So, yeah.
I know. I feel you, Will. I feel you. Get rid of 2 class of wide receivers. So it's Russ for Douglas for the 107. So what can I get for that 107 and Douglas? As soon as I get Jaden Mayer, Caleb Ridley's a flex play. He's Gabe Davis. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve knew what he was doing.
I just wanted a little bit of flexibility. Like I said, I looked at my team and I'm like, damn, bro, like I don't really got that much assets right now. I tried to go for it last year and it didn't work out, but it was worth I came within 1 point of the ship, like
I don't even know
whatever.
who do you have on that team? Mixing Gus, yeah, yeah. I see what you mean.
So, I have some guys that after next season, like the value is gonna be shot. So like I have, you know, we'll see what happens this season and what I can move some guys for and see what I can do. But Goku had the easiest schedule. That's why we're targeting him. Yeah. But I think that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Let us know if you got any more questions in the chat before we hop up out of here. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody for coming out. As always, smash the like for us, guys. Hit that subscribe if you're new. Trying to get to that,
Yeah, buddy.
that 1K.
That 1K would be nice, man. That's
Steve's gonna be in a full rebuild by week 8. Might be before that, bro.
it's possible.
Might be before that, bro. Might just say fuck it. He's saying Kyron, Okereke, and 3 picks for Puka and the 103. Okay, and you get to keep Burrow.
I'm mad at that.
What's the 3 picks? I mean, I don't know if he's going for that. Damn, the 103 and Puka. He said he was wanting to think about Kyron and Puka. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy. Like I would just try and do one or the other.
Yeah, you don't want to muddy it up. You want to be able to get Kyron, get
if
good
you,
value for Kyron.
You've already got him at the table thinking about a Kyron Puka swap right now. So
That's it.
Give him Kyron and fucking Okereke or those, or some of those picks just for Puka. Like I would just focus on that right now because I think you're close to a deal if he's actually thinking about this right now.
Agreed.
401, 501, 601. Yeah, I don't throw all of those picks on top of Kyron and see if you can get him. And if you could keep Okereke, then great. If you got to give him up, then you got to give him up. But my 25 first, the world probably for that.
Diaz always looking for some
getting
shit.
That. Bucks or E-girls.
Crispy, this is an interesting game. I was talking with Bagala about this game. There's good value on the Bucks here. I think the Bucks are at like plus 125 on the money line. AJ Brown's a little banged up, right? That team doesn't look good defensively. They're a mess. I might take the Bucks on the money line at a good value, plus 125. I believe it was a 3-point spread when the line came out. I believe it's down to 2.5. Eagles are favored by 2.5. So people are buying up the Bucks right now. So interesting game because the Bucks are playing halfway decent. I don't think they're great. And the Eagles are the better team or should be the better team, but they're just not playing as well. I would take a chance, man. I'd throw $20 on them on the Buccaneers money line.
Yeah. I'll still take the Eagles, but that is kind of interesting. DS has said the damn draft order. Hammer. Yeah, Hammer has said the damn draft order. I'm not even commish anymore. I guess when you started the new season, I kicked my ass out. I don't even have a commish thing no more. Yeah.
I'll give it back.
I'm just part of the crew now. We're just waiting on you, baby. We're just waiting on you.
Another guy. All right,
well,
settle down, guys.
Poll in the chat, so you should be able to put it. You should be able to do it now.
All right, relax. The draft is not for another 5 months.
Yeah, but we want to see that. We want to see the picks, Hammer. We want to see.
You know where you're at.
I need to see
where you're at.
1.07 on my.
You know where you're at.
Okay?
You know where you're at. Settle down. We'll get there. Don't worry about it.
Oh my God, this fucking guy.
Fucking nut jobs. The NFL playoffs aren't even over, and they're tapping a vein already.
Yes, fucking yes. Because when you see the number, it gives more value. It's the perception of the pick. It's more so you can trade it. People are actually looking at it. It doesn't just say a fucking name. It's got to say
what
number,
the pick
Hammer.
Is. You know what
it doesn't matter that you know what the pick. It's a visual thing, Hammer.
So
people like what they can see.
So hold on. Let me explain. So Bagala actually said that when you're setting the draft, you have to set it in the regular order as the reverse standings, and then it'll automatically calculate everybody who did the trades. I wasn't sure because this is the first time I was commish in a dynasty league, so I wasn't sure how it worked out. So I actually spoke to Bagala. He kind of explained everything to me. So I'll be setting it up soon. Settle down.
Put him commish with you too. Shit.
Come on, Hammer.
Get it fucking done. Okereke is great linebacker value. Yeah, well, I'm with you there. I don't think we need to add all the pieces. I'd try it with the picks and just Kyron, and because if he's just thinking about it almost straight up, if you throw 1 or 2 of those picks in there, you should be able to get it done. I don't think you got to give up Okereke.
I agree.
Diaz said, make him co-commish. We are D-Gens.
See,
Yeah,
Diaz,
we
that's
are
not a
nerds.
risk I'm willing to take. I'm not willing to take that risk, Diaz. I will.
Diaz
will
will
freeze
wind up
over.
with everybody's 25
Yeah.
first.
Exactly. Yeah. No, Diaz. You know what, Diaz? Diaz, you're my guy. I don't trust you with that power. There comes great responsibility with that power.
Oh man. But yeah, all right, we're about to get up out of here, guys. Appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next week on Tuesday. Oh my god, I gotta get to the ending here. Where's the fucking button? Get this love off of my screen here.
Go Pack, go baby.
Get
Let's
this outta
fucking
here.
go.
You ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother.
Show me the money.
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
Put my shoes on, you wouldn't last a mile. Summertime, wintertime, I'm on the grind. Yeah, I got the ring, I'm the champ, I'm the genie of the lamp.
This is the gift I was given, so I just live by my hustle.
It don't make sense, but don't make a profit. So I hustle, ladies and homies. Make money, money, money.